Greetings, friends, and welcome back to the Small Brand Podcast. Today we have a very special episode where we interviewed a really interesting guy. His name's Nick. Met him in a hostel, and he's riding his bicycle all the way from south to north in Japan. When we met up with him, he was already in Hakodate, so he had almost finished the journey. He had been on the road for, I think, like 40 days by the time we talked. He's got a ton of stories. He used to live in Vietnam, Denmark. He's done a bunch of traveling. So he's full of stories. We had a lot of little Mandarin conversations where he told me about the time he illegally in China, went to a Vietnamese bar, got drunk with cops, and crashed a wedding. And the man's full of stories. So I think you guys are you're gonna enjoy this one. So enjoy. Yeah, it's really just embarrassing. Like some of the I don't know. Do you know where that dude is from?
Yeah, British. Heard him
What?
talking about and it's I just don't get it, man. Like if you're gonna fucking stink and like don't stink up, don't be the stinky guy in the fucking hostel, dude. You know?
Yeah, that's tough.
Like
dude.
wash your ass, like get some deodorant. Don't fucking. And here's the thing that really fucking sent me, dude. Here's the thing that sent me over the edge, is went out at like 9 a.m. this morning. I took my breakfast up there and was eating, and there's a fucking 2 empty beer cans, an empty coffee, and like 4 or 5 cigarette butts on the ground. Just got up and left that there, and just like left a mess like it's like your living room, you know. I don't know,
Weird.
man.
That dude gives me weird vibes too. Like he's always like kind of slouched over, like cigarette hanging out of his mouth, like greasy hair. Like
Dude, we got to find a way to make friends with him, see what the vibe is.
yeah, prevent him from going on a mass shooting in Japan, dude. That's who that person is.
We don't need
like,
that. I mean, he's not American, so like
that's
you
true.
know.
Mass stabbing.
Yeah. Oh man.
Fucking hell. That's part of the reason why. I mean, me and Sarah, like, we're doing a little better now, so we're not like super. Like we don't need to stay in the hostel, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
as more couple, like it's
Yeah.
always a little awkward couples and hostels and stuff, but that's a big part of the reason why like I don't really fuck with hostels anymore because like one person can ruin it for everybody. It's like somebody pissing in the pool. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and that's been the thing for me too. Is like usually when I take
closer.
a little closer.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually when I take the day off, I kind of want like a little solace after I've been like dodging trucks and like, you know, cycling through rain or cold or whatever it is. And like, I'll usually do like 3 or 4 nights in the tent. And then when I get to somewhere that's like maybe a little bigger, you know, it's kind of harder to find camping accommodation.
Yeah.
And I'll just go for the hotel. And usually I'm just so like exhausted by that point. It's been like 4 or 5 straight days of cycling. And then I'm like, okay, I want rest. I don't want to have to fucking deal with, you know, a stinky guy in the room.
Yeah.
Like I
You
kind of
actually
want
need to recharge.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
let's back it up. So you're cycling across Japan.
I am. I'm in the home stretch.
So you started. Yeah.
Yeah, I started April like 18th, 20th, something like that.
It's been like 40 days.
Yeah, 40 days. But I had a little week off in there that I'll tell you a little bit about. But I started in Kagoshima, which is super south, like one of the I guess the southernmost prefecture in Kyushu, like the bottom island. So started there.
That's the place with the big mountain in the distance, right? It's like always like spewing and shit.
Yeah, no, it was kind of wild. It's like an active volcano, and like there's volcano shelters all over the island. And
What's a volcano shelter look like?
they're just like kind of reinforced, like thick kind of concrete little half of like a little concave shell just all over the island, and some of them double as like bus stops. So there's
my
like
God.
there's like a little route that goes around the island.
That's wild.
Yeah, and the kind of crazy thing is like just because of the active volcano, like everything on this island is just kind of like on the slopes of the volcano. So you can see that everything is kind of built with that big fucking volcano in mind.
Oh my God.
And even one of the interesting things I noticed was like the kids on the way home from school, they all wear helmets. So just in case there is like an eruption, the kids have got like a protection on them. So like the kids are wearing helmets on the way from
Why
school.
would you choose to live there? I feel like that's like because you're breathing in smog and like soot every day, right?
Yeah. I mean, I will say the beauty there was pretty intense. And like that was the first day I realized that, because I think that there were some realizations in the first few days of the trips. And I actually did a loop, or we did the like 60-kilometer loop around the island. Like that was my first big cycling day of the trip, and then actually started like on the trip the like 2 days later. But that day made me realize like I don't think I was prepared for the amount of hills that are in Japan.
Yeah.
Because I've been living in Denmark and like honestly never really was into cycling like living in the US, but then
Yeah.
living in Denmark, I rode my bike to work every day and just realized like, oh, this is really nice. Like I enjoy being on the bike, and then bought like a, proper like road bike, and then started like really cycling, bit the bullet, bought the spandex. Like I did
Fucking
the whole
hell, dude. You got like the big bullet hat, the
yeah,
teardrop.
yeah, I'm one of those guys,
helmet.
like pretty close to Tour de France status, If you come near me, I'll yell at you about being in the fucking bike lane.
Right.
Yeah,
I had a few
yeah.
of those in Europe where I was on my motorcycle in the bike lane, and people was like yelling in their tongues, their French
Yeah.
tongues or whatever
Yeah,
it was.
yeah.
One lady told me I parked my bike next to an outcropping of bicycles. I like chained it up on like a little whatever, something like surrounding a tree, like a few little metal posts.
Yeah.
And she like said in English, she's like, "I will call the police. You're parking near the bikes." But you don't
love
seem
that.
like a pretentious bike guy. You just seem like
Nah,
you're just trying to get in nature. And,
You know what? I hate a lot of that part of it too. Like some of the like just people get too lost in the sauce with the cycling. I just enjoy like being out. And plus, like, your boy loves to eat. So, like, the nice thing about it is, like, with cycling, I can go cycle, whether it's every other day or just spend a couple hours on the bike, and I can kind of eat what I want to eat,
Yeah.
drink my Coca-Cola, drink my beers, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of keeps the weight off of me a bit. So,
have you noticed like a difference in your figure?
oh,
Because you've been on the road for 40 days.
completely. So I binged pretty hard. So left Denmark back in August. Had been there for around 2 years, and was cycling a lot and just eating more healthy, I think, in Denmark. And in the 6 months that I was back in the U.S., I gained like 25 pounds.
Fucking hell.
And it was just, having a car and then being hungry and being like, oh, I'm going to go grab Bojangles. I'm going to go grab this like easy
Bojangles.
food. And like just Southern food is like,
Hell yeah.
it's tough, man. Like
'Cause
all the,
where are you from in North Carolina?
like central North Carolina, so halfway between Greensboro and Raleigh. It's a small town called Mebane.
Okay.
Um,
I've been to Fort Mill, Charlotte,
Okay. Yeah.
Asheville.
Yeah.
Yeah. Asheville's weird as fuck.
Yeah, Asheville's an interesting one, man. I actually didn't go there until like 2 years ago. Yeah, found some nice nature there, but there's an interesting underbelly in Asheville because there's this like transient like I-40 transfer kind of.
Where you're like, are you homeless or are you backpacking? Are you like
That's, like,
trendy
everybody
homeless?
there.
Or are you
yeah, yeah. You just, and it's kind of one of those things like we were talking about earlier. It's just you have to judge it based on smell. You just have to get close enough to somebody to know, like, is this person, are they just rocking the look, or are they living the life? Are they about that life?
Are they cosplaying as homeless?
Yeah.
Is this like a yeah?
Yeah, it's an interesting spot, and that's kind of like, as I get older, like, I think younger me wanted to get as far away as I could from North Carolina, and that's kind of been like the, why I ended up in Vietnam for a few years, why I ended up in, Denmark for a while. But as I get older, I kind of realize these places things that I've like overlooked, and like the fact that you can get like kind of really nice mountains and like beautiful coast in North Carolina makes me realize like, maybe there's something here later one day in life. But yeah, right now, I think biggest point of contention internally is like, is it time to go back and have a North Carolina chapter again?
Yeah.
Or is it, one of these places I've already lived, going back?
Yeah.
Or is it something completely new? So,
Yeah. Well, it seems like you're off on the opposite end of
yeah.
the North Carolina spectrum, fucking cycling across Japan. I mean,
Yeah, man.
it's a fucking send.
Yeah.
How did you
it's,
decide to do it?
You know what? So me quitting my job back in August, I worked the job for around 4 years. Mm-hmm. And everything just got like super monotonous. And I think that I always had this thing in the back of my mind that like, hey, I've got this, safety net, financial safety blanket.
Yeah.
Just in case I get to the point where I'm just like burnt out. And I think a couple of like life factors just kind of like met at that perfect intersection. That made me realize like I'm done with the job, and then I think that snowballed into I'm done with living in Denmark. And so at that point I quit the job, left Denmark, and yeah, those things just kind of intersected and had me wanting to leave. But in that, I knew that like kind of going from like a really structured life to kind of having no job, being back in a new place, like it was going to be really easy to just fall back into bad habits or fall back into like, you know, how I lived before XYZ. And I wanted to make sure that I was kind of moving forward in a way. So what I did is I sat down and like had a day of brainstorming and really like laid out some things that I wanted to do and accomplish like over the time off. And that list is kind of like refined over time. And I've kind of, you know, made some, you know, scratched some parts out and like kind of like redefined how I want, you know, and what I want to be able to look back on and like pick from that sabbatical time.
Did you have like a time period that you were going to take off, or was it just like however long
No,
it took
and
to do all the shit?
I still don't know. I think that really the thing I'm running against and the factor that's always in my head is just boredom. You know, if I get to a point where, I just feel like I haven't been enough, like I haven't had enough structure, enough stimulation for long enough, then I think that's when I'll revert and go back into something maybe I know that's comfortable, like another tech sales job, XYZ.
I think that's totally fair.
Yeah, I'm not quite there yet, because I still think that there's question marks on like what exactly I do next.
Yeah.
And it's such a stressful thing because like our brain wants to know that next endpoint. But I really feel like to find the thing that's really, you know, the best for you and what really aligns with your values and what's important to you is just kind of living in the moment and letting that happen with, you know, kind of some guardrails in place, but kind of making sure that you're actually, you know, living the life and taking note on the lessons that you've learned along the way and like letting that guide you to your next little, you know, little waypoint. But yeah, one of the things on my sabbatical bucket list was I want to do something that's like a big physical challenge, like something that I like never thought I'd be able to do before. And then that's where this Japan trip kind of came into place. Because I started a trip. I was going to actually go from Denmark to Portugal with my dog back in September.
On a bike?
So I bought like a trailer to pull the dog behind, bought all the camping gear.
You're just going to camp every night?
Yeah, and just do like maybe Airbnbs if I could find dog-friendly type stuff. But the tragic planning error on my behalf was I was in great cycling shape and in great physical shape, but I didn't factor in like the extra, you know, 50, 60 pounds for like the dog and the trailer and camping gear. He's a small dog, but like including like, you know, the camping gear, the full cooking setup, the tent, all the extra
I feel like
things.
You need an e-bike for that. That's pretty intense.
Yeah, so my motor was ready for, you know, whatever I was doing, but I don't think, you know, I didn't do any training with the extra weight on there. So I got like 7 days into the trip. I got like kind of like halfway through Germany and I just started to have like a really bad pain in my knee. And I just had to turn around. I went back to Copenhagen for a couple weeks and tried to like, I went to, you know, the PT and, you know, tried to rehabilitate it, but it was something that just wasn't going away quickly. It was just like an overuse, kind of like a tendon in the knee. And so it was something that was just going to take a long time. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to hop back on with the dog. And, you know, at that point I was just like, all right, going back to the US. So that desire for like a long-term trip was kind of like still kind of floating around.
It was the one that got away.
It was the one that got away.
So you quit your job, you went on the 7-day trip, and then back to the U.S.
Yeah, and then came back to Copenhagen for a few weeks, you know, said my goodbyes, had my kind of goodbye party, moved out of the apartment, did all of that stuff, and then went back to the U.S. And yeah, everything just timed itself well. I hadn't been around the family in a few years. I had a couple of loved ones pass away.
I'm sorry.
While I was living abroad.
That's
and
tough.
Also my brother, like my closest family member, him and his wife had my first niece in January. So it just made sense to be home for a few months, you know, holidays and all of that kind of stuff. So
you need that recharge time.
Yeah.
For sure.
For sure. And it also made me realize like, it gave me that, you know, all right, I'm not ready to be back. You know, living at home, I'm ready to figure out the next chapter.
Get a little antsy at home after a few weeks.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the same way.
Oh, yeah.
But I think a lot of it's, were you staying with your parents?
Yeah.
See, that's, I feel like if you get a B&B, me personally, I could probably stay like 2 or 3 months as opposed to like 2 or 3 days with my parents. I'm like, want to tear my fucking hair out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, just, it's honestly weird living under somebody's roof after being independent for so long.
Yeah, it's super weird.
And when you leave like the glass out on the counter and, you know, you get the look because you left something out, it's like, I'm just not used to having to be under somebody else's jurisdiction, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But, yeah, that all led to finally kind of pulling the trigger on the Japan trip. And the girlfriend's Japanese, so we've been together for quite a while. And she wanted to spend some time with her family. She just got done doing a big show in London. And
She's a dancer?
she is a musical theater actor, so she does. She's her main bag of tricks is singing.
Okay, nice.
And then in her like kind of to pay the bills, she teaches vocal lessons, and all of her students are Japanese. So it made sense for her to come back, and she wanted to have some in-person lessons, and she's been visiting with the family and doing some things here.
Okay, nice.
While I've been cycling. But yeah, that all kind of lined up, and it just so happened that, you know, I did some research on when would be the perfect time to do the trip, and everything led to like getting here in early April, visiting with her family, and, you know, visiting with, you know, doing some things that, you know, we'd been wanting to do in Japan for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, and then starting the trip.
Okay.
So yeah, man, that's kind of how the whole trip came to
So
fruition.
you chose Japan because like she had to be here anyways, and you're like, fuck it, I'll just go check it out.
Yeah, and you know, we've been together for a long time, and most of that's been living in the U.S. or you know, in Denmark together. And we haven't spent. I came in 2015. We spent like 2 weeks here, so I got a little bit of a taste and kind of like a little bit of an understanding of like, you know, what is this place that made, you know, this person that I've been in like this long relationship with. And
Interesting.
so she lived in Japan until she was 18 or 19, moved to New York City as like a little tiny Japanese girl,
wow.
like living by herself in a big city.
Oh my
and
God.
it's just like,
It's probably terrifying.
I know, it's
Poor
so
girl.
crazy. But it's if you met her, you would be like, she can cut it. Like she's
Okay.
like just like 4 feet 9 inches of just like fire. Like she's
Okay.
a little like dynamite comes in a small package. That's
Okay.
her.
Okay.
And so yeah, it was just, I think one big thing for me was just to like, you know, I want to understand a little bit more about Japan and spend some time here, just so I, you know, can spend more time with her family.
Yeah.
And then just understand the
Had you ever
little-
met her mom?
Yeah, I'd met her parents once in the U.S., once when I was here like 9 or 10 years ago, and then also she had a show in London at the end of last year.
Okay.
And her parents came, my family came, and so they got to
Got
meet
you.
each other.
So it wasn't
for
like,
the
hey,
first
nice to
time.
meet you after 10 years. It was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. So we met a few times, and then yeah, I just, you know, I really wanted to spend some time here because I felt like I knew a lot about Japan and Japanese culture just from being with her for a while. And then getting here, it's just so funny because I feel like I've realized so many things.
Yeah. Like about why she is the way she is.
Exactly. Just like small things, and just like, you know, when I get constantly harassed about like wearing my shoes in the house and like,
Yeah.
you know, wearing my shoes like 3 steps past where I'm supposed to. Sometimes I'm like, fuck, okay, like I'll take them off. But then now I get it. Like here, I'm like, I would never walk into like a Japanese house or like, you know, unlike, you know, some of the roommates here at the hostel, you know, would never like just walk through with, you know, my shoes off, that kind of thing. But
Yeah. You definitely have to adapt. There's a lot of rules about cleanliness.
Yeah.
Like, we have a gym membership now, and the gym is like, they're fucking Nazis about it. Like, you have to bring an outdoor pair of shoes and an indoor pair of shoes. So you walk up, you take off your outdoor shoes, you scan in, you go into the locker room, all while holding your outdoor shoes, and you pull out of your bag your indoor shoes, and then go into the locker room, change, and they have a special tray for your outdoor shoes to put in the locker, and then you go out, put the indoor shoes on, go to the gym. But if you want to do yoga, you take the indoor shoes off, or if you want to do like any kind of stretching, you take the indoor shoes off, or like, why are we?
Yeah.
That seems a little extra to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've definitely broken several of the rules, and but no one's ever like scolded me. They're just like, they kind of look at me, look at the shoes, look at me, look at the shoes. They're like, hey, buddy, like,
yeah. And I've realized that the Japanese have really perfected this look of disappointment. You know, it's not like we're not going to say anything, we're not going to make a scene, but I'm going to give you the look of like that your mother gives you like when she finds your first like porno mag or something. It's like you know, you fucked
like you're
up.
an animal.
Yeah,
like you're disgusting.
Yeah. You're scum of the earth.
Yeah.
Like, we need to work on this, but I'm not going to say anything, but I'm going to let you know. I'm going to let you fucking know.
Yeah. Oh, fucking hell.
Yeah.
So
I've had that a few times here.
Yeah.
But you know, I think it's just these interesting things that I see, and like I think it's made me appreciate her a lot in certain ways, because I realize here there's this overwhelming feeling of like, you know, just being in Tokyo and seeing like the salaryman running around in their suits and, you know, out to their business dinners with their boss, just trying to like satisfy their boss. And like, I just feel like there's this like ingrained, like collective feeling of just like people are just going through a daily routine, just like, here's the trains on time. I'm at this train, I'm at this junction. And just people are so like almost like mechanized.
Yeah.
And it's like,
sure.
it just seems so like homogenous sometimes here that when I think like, okay, this is like what made her, this is like what formed her. And then to see that she's like just branched out and like moved halfway around the world to a like crazy big city and then just done something completely different, it just makes me like really appreciate like, wow, that's brave. Like that's fucking bold to come from somewhere that's like, just there's such an ingrained expected way with everything, and then to just do something completely different, it just makes me respect that. And I think I've always like gravitated towards people that like either rule breakers, which I tend to kind of fall in that category, but just people that do something kind of unexpected and against the grain, you know?
Yeah. Well, especially at 18. I mean, dude, even for a American girl, that would be insane.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if anybody, other than like studying abroad, which doesn't really even count. I mean, because you're just with all your friends.
Yeah. Barcelona.
Yeah. Yikes. Yeah. Did you study abroad?
I did,
okay.
and Spain, so I'm kind of talking shit about myself.
Yeah, I went to Italy, so it's like the same shit. Like,
But you know, I always refer to it as when I never say I was like studying abroad. I just say I lived in Spain for 6 months. You know,
see
like,
that's kind of lying. Actually,
yeah, well,
like,
whatever,
it's kind of like stretching the truth.
Whatever. I got there early. I found my own apartment.
Okay,
I stayed a little after. Yo hablo español.
Okay, nice.
Casi perfectamente, pero you know. Like it's a little stretch, but
Yeah.
you know.
Okay, all right. You're trendy. We'll give you a pass.
It's the embellishment, you know.
Yeah. Fucking hell. Yeah. I studied abroad for 6 weeks with just like a bunch of sorority girls and like frat guys, and just like I feel like I was just like a photographer for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I didn't really.
Where at?
Verona, Italy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was all right. I mean, it was cool. We just binge drank. It's pretty much what you do when you're that young and traveling. And even when I was living in Japan, I fucking drank a lot. Just whatever. Did you start smoking cigs in Spain?
I started smoking hand-rolled cigs. Yeah, so when I got there, I was just like ripping the regular maquinados.
What's that? Is that
like
the local brand?
Like machine-rolled cigarettes, like just regular cigarettes. So after I lived there for a while, like I came into like the strangest living situation. I went into like the little rental office like right off of campus of the university I was starting at. My classes started the next day.
Okay.
This was like the last 30 minutes the rental shop was open before my classes started the next fucking day. I had no accommodation. Also, side note, I never plan anything. I'm always like, throw it together. Let's see where this adventure leads me.
Likewise.
And it just so happened that there were two girls that are paying their rent for their apartment. And I was asking about a room, and they're like, actually, these girls have an open room in their apartment.
You're like, hey, ladies, like, can I slide in there?
So I go to the apartment, and it is a 6-bedroom apartment. What? And it's 5 Spanish girls that are all like second-year university students.
Oh, wow.
Like one of them spoke like passable English. So it ended up working out. Became like really good friends with these, these Spanish girls. And
friends, huh?
Yeah. So, one of them spoke passable English. So it really, like this immersion, it was like the perfect situation for like learning the language. And like I went from like, I took like 4 levels of Spanish in university. So like I was pretty decent and could always like carry a conversation pretty well.
It'll stick with you though. Like it's like deep in your brainstem, I feel like, all that information.
And I think the cool thing is if I came to an impasse where I couldn't explain, like, all right, I need, something to toss a salad or whatever, I could go to that one roommate and be like, hey, I need XYZ.
Yeah.
And then I could get my situation solved. But I was forced every day to speak Spanish.
It's like, exhausting, bro.
Share the kitchen. Yeah.
But it got to a point. Yeah. You wake up first thing, like you haven't had coffee or anything, and she's like, and you're like, oh, fuck, I have to fucking, okay, here we go.
Yeah, and this was like back in the day before, like, I guess like translate apps, where it's like 2013. Yeah, it was before those things I think were really like hashed out super well. So, I would sit there and like look through like an online dictionary for a word and be like, I need this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was definitely like trial by fire, and I had
Yeah.
to. But luckily, the good thing about it was learn Spanish really quickly.
Yeah.
In that context. And then of course learned about the tabaco de lear, the rolly
Dude, I'm
tobacco.
telling you, bro, the Europeans, like, they make smoking look so sexy, bro.
I know, man. They would
The
just
French,
be
the Spanish, even gross
know.
English people. Like, I'm like,
I
it's
know.
still kind of cool. Like,
I know, man. And like, they would always like make the like mocha pot coffee and like, make the like big pot and like pour one for everybody and go have a coffee and smoke a cigarette in
dude,
the living room.
just take a fat shit in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Just diarrhea first thing.
I know.
You can't
Like,
eat for like 4 hours.
100%. Like, and that's like such an aggressive way to start the day.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
It's like
You feel sexy though. You're like, ooh, I'm suave. I'm sexy. I'm smoking.
I've cleaned out the colon, and now I've got a like cigarette breath first thing in the morning.
Yeah, fucking hell. Your head is spinning.
Yeah.
I feel like when you travel, like, I don't know, man, something about any country that's outside of North America, I just want to fucking rip cigs.
Yeah.
Even
yeah.
Mexico. It's really just the U.S. and Canada where smoking is just like so nasty and like
Yeah.
frowned upon. Everywhere else is just like, it's still pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, it's still cool. You know what? That was my. I didn't smoke for the longest. I smoked when I was like in high school and like all the way through college, and I quit. And probably quit for like 3 or 4 years. But 2017 to like 2019, I lived in Vietnam, and
Oh,
there,
they're ripping cigs down
oh
there.
man, everywhere. Like you can literally smoke anywhere, and a pack of Marlboros is like fucking $1.
Yeah.
So it's like you're stupid not to smoke.
I mean-
you know what I mean? The money you save. It's like an investment in your future.
Yeah,
you know?
honestly, like you'd be spending that on therapy if it wasn't for the cigs.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And like everything was just like it's like shockingly cheap there. Like a beer is like less than $1, and like it was a
And everyone's doing it. And you're just
Yeah.
like, this
Oh,
can't
yeah.
be bad. Like,
Yeah.
this guy's old as fuck. He's smoking. I'll be fine.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. And just like the fact, one thing that I got really impressed by while I was there is just people's ability to do like everyday things while smoking.
Yeah.
I have this picture of I had some random part break off of my motorcycle, and I went to like a local mechanic to like weld. It was something that just like couldn't be like taped or fixed. It had to be welded. And there's this mechanic like full on like Vietnam squatting, welding something with no like eye protection, nothing. And a cigarette with like 3 inches of ash, just like it's got the arc to it. You know when you get the arc?
Yeah.
Like this fucker had, it was just so impressive, man. Like it was really one of the greatest things I saw in Vietnam. I think
Wow.
I've got the picture somewhere
That's
on
a
my
fucking
phone.
talent.
But yeah,
I
just
see
like
that
a
and it stresses
beautiful
me out.
weld and like this beautifully arced cigarette. Like the arcs, his talent for the arcs was amazing. The man knew how to throw down a weld and throw down a. I think he was smoking the Tang Long.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably wearing flip flops too.
Without a doubt. Without a
Yeah.
doubt. And also like every bit of like 84 pounds, you know?
Hell yeah. Yeah, my dad got really into it's funny how like YouTube will like bring you down a rabbit hole. My dad got really into like DIY like fixer upper YouTube channels.
Okay.
And he started getting recommended this like 15-year-old Filipino kid that doesn't even narrate his videos. He just like puts the phone on a tripod. Or he might be holding it. I have no idea. But he's like welding. He's like sanding, power sanding. He's like sawing things. And he'll be like holding down something with his foot. And then the other hand, the hand is like right next to it with a saw. And he's just wearing a flip-flop. Like
Yeah, man.
no consideration for personal safety.
It's, you know what, the thing I realized, like how the most resourceful people I've ever seen in my life are the Vietnamese. They can make anything out of everything and can repair something like so quickly and so cheaply. It's insane. And it made me think like, like reflecting back on like Vietnam War, it's like, this is what we were up against. Like these fuckers are crafty. They're like, when it comes to like street smart, like just the Vietnamese are so resourceful, so crafty with everything. Like just like nothing's trash. Like they always like, if something's like somewhat useful or like a motorcycle frame, they're like, yeah, we're keeping that around. We'll use that rear spring for a, a fucking tiller, like 9 years. So
Yeah.
really good at like just being super creative and resourceful with like repairs and stuff like that. And like
Yeah.
obviously smoking cigs at the same time.
Hell
So-
yeah. It was the same in India. Like you'd like if my flip-flop broke up, the American way, just toss it.
Yeah,
But there, I don't know what it is. I guess I don't even know. It's just a different mindset. They're like, just keep that shit and we'll just figure it out.
Yeah, we'll fix it.
yeah.
We'll use it one day down the road.
How long were you in Vietnam? And why were you there?
Yeah, so that was my first, I guess you could say, I don't know. it depends on how you label it, I guess. Was it existential crisis? Was it sabbatical?
Yeah.
I think some sort of like beautiful combination of the two.
Right. Fleeing the authorities.
Yeah. So after I graduated college, I moved to New York City and worked in consulting for IBM for like 2.5 years.
What is consult? What even is that?
I fucking still don't know. Basically, what it was for me was working and managing spreadsheets and doing like financial modeling, and then I would be it fucking sucked, man. I got really good at Excel. Like if you need like a sweet like VLOOKUP formula, or you need like any kind of Excel documents created, I'm not fucking doing it, but I can tell you how to do it.
I don't think I've ever learned how to use Excel. I feel so inept at like making budgets and like shit that actually would help my life. Where I'm just like, nah, I can't do it.
Yeah, but it ended up being, they sold it to me as like this really cool rotational program where you're gonna get experience in different industries and you're gonna travel a lot, and it just ended up being like traveling to these like butthole fucking Egypt places and like
Egypt?
Sorry, maybe a southern euphemism, but like just like shitty towns that you don't want to go to.
In America?
Yeah, like
like Texarkana and
yeah, like I think that but a lot of it was like northeast. The team I was on was like northeast region, so it was a lot of like going to, where was it, like Jericho, Long Island, like Cannon's headquarters.
like real white trash.
Yeah, not even just like these little towns in the middle of nowhere that were like where you don't want to go. It's like there aren't nice hotels there. You know what I mean? Like you can't even take advantage of your points and like save your points because it's like there's like not a chain hotel in this like little town.
Yeah.
But yeah, did that for a while and just like, I don't know, man. I went to school late, and I think I just like took a very different path through like getting an education and all of that kind of thing. And I just realized after a while that, you know, you kind of have to take a look in the mirror and look around you and look at the people who are in the room with you sometimes and realize like, are you in the right room? And I think I realized that at the like, you know, kind of the 2-year mark of doing the consulting thing. Like it was just a lot of people that had, you know, went to the same, you know, kind of handfuls of schools, like probably like some buttholes you went to school with that were all like UGA, UNC, fucking every like top school. And I don't know, it just felt like it were people that had like all kind of lived like the same life. Like all like I was working with all the same people. And I just realized it really wasn't for me anymore.
It's almost like a factory line, like go from like
high
school to college and do your fucking internship and then your externship and then fucking yeah,
it was the exact same thing. And it was just a bunch of people that were all doing the same thing, that were chasing that very, you know, laid out, you know, promotion path, and like it was very defined on how that worked within that portion of the business. And I just it got to a point where it wasn't for me. And luck was on my side, so I got laid off.
Got a little severance.
Yeah.
Got a little
check.
check.
And the beautiful thing is I had a 90-day window. And so I told myself, like, if I don't find the next, like, best thing for me, like a really good next chapter in terms of a job in New York City, I'm saying fuck it, and I'm buying a one-way ticket to Southeast Asia.
Nice.
So actually, like, you know, it wasn't like, yeah, I really just want to go travel. It was like, all right, I'm going to try to, like, you know, stick to kind of the momentum I've got going.
Yeah. How old were you at this time?
So I was fresh out of college, but I went to college late. So I think I was like 26 at this time.
Still young enough to have some adventures.
Yeah.
Get into some trouble.
Oh yeah. And so decided at the time that I was like, okay, if none of these jobs that I apply for, if nothing comes to fruition, then yeah, I'm just saying fuck it. I'm gonna go buy this one-way ticket to Southeast Asia. So just so happened,
Hell yeah,
I made it to the final round. It was like 5 jobs that I had interviews for. I think I made it to the final round of 3 of the jobs and didn't get the offer from any of them. So I was like, okay. And I kind of felt like I had like 2 of them, like for sure. Like they like told me I had the job, and then it just didn't play out. So I was like, maybe that's just something universe telling me, like, go travel.
Yeah.
So I got to that 90th day, and I had kind of gotten all the no's that I expected. And I said, fuck it, I'm buying the ticket. So I bought a one-way ticket to Bangkok.
Classic first
So
backpacking destination.
yeah, and that was my first. I had traveled a bit in Europe before, like probably like circa 2013, 2014, and done the London, Madrid, kind of the big stops that
Western
everybody,
Europe.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
that does, the pre-study abroad or post-study abroad or like the weekend spring break trips. Like I
Yeah.
did all of that stuff. Funny thing happened. Well, not funny at all, actually. I fell on icy subway steps like probably 4 days before I was supposed to leave for Bangkok,
Oh, no, dude.
and knocked these two teeth out. Like completely broke, like back at an angle. Like they were like, I can show you pictures in a bit, but
No,
like
no,
they
no.
were
I'm very squeamish.
yeah, they were like more than halfway gone.
Fuck.
And so luckily I have a family friend that lived in Bangkok, and
Oh, they have good dentistry there, don't
they
they?
have great dentistry. So it just so happened that he referred me to a doctor. It was like I had multiple crowns and a lot of dental work done in my like 12 years living in Bangkok. Go to this doctor. It's cheap. It's great work. Like you're going to be like in good hands. So it's crazy. So in the time of like panicking and like, I've got to get like my teeth fixed. It was going to be like $4,000 or $5,000 to get it fixed in the US. And I'd saved up like maybe like 12, 15 grand for like, a few months abroad. And I was like, well, there goes my trip. I'm not traveling anymore. Like, that's done. I talked to him, and he referred me to this dentist in Thailand. Long story short, it ended up being $600
No way.
for 2 completely permanent crowns. So if there's anybody listening to this that needs some dental work done, take a few weeks off, go to Thailand, and like if you need a good dentist, I can drop you a line. But like,
Okay.
yeah, I came back, and like a friend of mine's father is a dentist, and went and had them look, and they were like, this is great work. And it ended up that my dentist in Thailand went to dental school at University of North Carolina, like one of the really good like dental schools, and then just like moved back home to live in Thailand and practice in Thailand.
Oh my God.
So that kind of worked out.
And you probably spend less just fucking around. Well, I guess you ended up in Vietnam, but I met like Aussies and stuff when I was in Bangkok, and they were like, we're just coming here, getting a root canal. I'd be like $8,000 in Australia, but it's like 500 here, so I might as well just like have a little vacation, spend $3,000, and then
there's like this whole medical, and then I did a little bit more research on it, and there's like this whole medical tourism thing that is like especially big in like Thailand and Turkey.
For the hair
Turkey with the hair transplant and the turkey teeth. I know a lot of people.
I'll probably get a good hair transplant from Turkey.
Yeah, dude, I've been thinking about it too. I've got some of that going on myself. So.
Actually, a company in Turkey hit me up. They're like, "Hey, like, come out and we'll do it for free if you make a video." But I was like, "I'm not making a whole ass video about a hair transplant. That'd be kind of weird, dude."
Yeah,
like, it's tempting though. It's tempting.
It'd be a cool way to get a free. I mean, if they do good work, if you can see,
they do.
Yeah,
and they like pick you up. They have like this nice van. You have like champagne. It's like a 5-star kind of thing. And I was like, I don't know.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. I like how they profile me. They're like, this guy fucking needs it. Like,
DM him. Yeah. Look at this thumbnail. Look at this forehead shining. Like, get this guy here ASAP.
I'm telling you, dude. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I feel you. It's a struggle that I guess us. How old are you?
30.
30. Okay, I'm 34. So yeah, it hit me hard. I think like hangovers and the hairline, hangovers and hairline.
Yeah. I had 2 beers yesterday. Yeah. And I was hungover this morning.
Yeah.
Embarrassing, bro. Yeah. Embarrassing performance.
Dude, I've quit drinking. I drank like maybe 1 beer like twice throughout this whole cycling trip.
Really?
But I've just been trying to cut it out. Yeah, I don't know. Something happened at 30, just like something in the...
It's like a flip switch.
Internally. Like I used to could drink like fucking 1,000 beers in a night and then go home, take an Advil, drink some water, wake up and be like, I'm good. But now it's like I have like 2 days of anxiety. My stomach's all fucked up, and it's like, all right, I'm not doing this anymore.
It's not worth it.
The funniest thing happened 2 nights ago. It was like the day after I finished I think 100 kilometers of cycling, and then took the ferry across. I got here, I was exhausted. I went to buy some things from the convenience because it was the only thing that was open, and I got like a 0% alcohol beer.
Oh,
and
I haven't drank something.
And I haven't drank anything in like 3 weeks. But the funniest thing happened is I cracked it and went to take the first sip of it, and as soon as I like took the sip and like the taste hit my mouth, I immediately had like this little wave of anxiety just because my body knows that it hates alcohol.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like listened to that, and like it's been something I've like tried to do as I've gotten a little bit older. It's just like listen to your body, like the things you put in, like you can tell the things you don't need. And I have a red meat intolerance, and it took me the longest time to realize that. But just after that, I've kind of tried to like just keep an open ear and eye to like what your body's telling you. But
For sure.
Yeah,
I had
man.
the same thing with weed for so long. I was smoking weed for ages, and then like I just wasn't having fun, and like I just didn't consciously recognize I wasn't having fun, and then one day I was like, I have anxiety. Like I do not need to be fucking around with weed.
Yeah.
And then you always have like the one friend from high school who just like is like into dabs now, and is just like, come on, man, like let's just get high. I'm like, I'm gonna be not fun to be around. Like I'm gonna stop talking, and then I'm gonna like think I'm having a heart attack, and I'm gonna like call an Uber and go home. Like that's what's about to happen.
Nah, man, that's exactly, and that hit me a little earlier, and I don't think I got into it like later in life, but like I don't know, around like 2021, I was playing music and like just hanging around that all the time, and like I would always smoke because it was there.
Yeah, that's how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, and at a certain time, I was like, every time I do this, I'm fucking miserable.
Every
Like,
single
let's
time.
just stop. But it's been a theme in my life of like, let's learn things the hardest way possible. Let's run it into the fucking ground. Like drinking, drugs, fucking everything you name it. I learned the fucking hard way, and like I must learn the hard way.
Yeah.
But then I do look at it, it's like a positive and a negative. Like, yeah, you have to have the experience to like get that lesson the hard way. But at the same time, it gives you some substance to like your opinion, like of like, hey, I decided not to drink because not like
because I decided, not because you told me.
exactly, and I had to learn the hard way. Like lots of anxiety, lots of like diarrhea, lots of things learned like the really hard way.
Yeah, fucking hell.
Yeah,
So,
man.
anyways, you're in Vietnam or you're in Thailand.
Yeah, so in Thailand,
Mandarin.
and yeah, I did like, you know what, I kind of like, I don't know, obviously a little long-winded, but I kind of look at my like Southeast Asia experience like a little bit like Goldilocks. Like it was like that, this bed's too soft, this one's too hard. Like when I was in Thailand, like everything was, it's such a funny place because I feel like it has this rough edge that like feels Southeast Asian.
Yeah.
But infrastructure wise, like roads, hospitals, like general safety, cleanliness, like everything is like on point.
Really?
Like
The roads
to
are
like
good?
yeah, like first world status. So I felt like I was like, I want something that's a little bit more of an adventure. So ended up spending a month in Thailand, and then I took the riverboat from the Thai border in Laos, and then went to Laos, and it was just like too wild. Like took this riverboat to these small towns, like ended up like smoking opium in this small Laotian village and like being like whacked out for like 12 hours, and then had to get on the riverboat the next day and go to this other like small, anyway.
So you're using the riverboat to get around, like a bus or something?
Yeah, it was like I think it was like a 5-day river cruise that stopped at like all these little tiny towns along the Mekong River. Oh. Was it Mekong? Yeah, is that Mekong River up there? I think so. I think it's like the upper part of it. But took that, did that for like 5 days, and it ended in Luang Prabang. So like actually I don't think it's capital city, but like biggest city, most visited
But it was
city.
like a tourist cruise. Like you were there with other foreigners. And
Yeah.
How did you get over?
Some random like, kind of like the guy with like the little bit of a sweaty sheen and like, dilated pupils that was standing outside the cafe that we were of course like kind of ferried into. And
Like he was ready for the tourists.
and he I think he knew like 2 words. It was like good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. And like he took it and like just rubbed the opium on the cigarette like that I was smoking.
Oh, that's all it took.
Yeah, that's all it took.
It was like a liquid.
Yeah, it was
wasn't
like
like
a pasty, kind of like a brown, like black tar, the good shit.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, so I'm just like, yeah, why not? I'll fucking do it. I just had a nice meal, nice river cruise, and why not just, do
a
some
couple
fucking
beers deep.
opiates? Yeah, of course. And that was
Holy shit.
and like it was just a wild experience. And then finally ended up in Luang Prabang, and it was just a weird vibe there, man. I feel like the culture, like they're so just different than Westerners. They don't like Laotian people. I feel like didn't want to like Thai people were interested in Westerners. They're like, oh, I want to talk to you. What do you do? Where are you from?
Yeah.
And then Laotian people, I feel like there was too much of a divide of like worlds that they just didn't really want to interact.
Yeah, we
And
also
that was-
bombed the fuck out of them in the 70s. So.
Yeah, actually, I have a really like just ominous picture on my phone. But there was this like little monastery built in Luang Prabang, and they have like it's like got all these like beautiful plants, and like in the planters they've taken like kind of like that like fin like tail section of a bomb.
Yeah.
and they like hollowed it out and built like planters that they like
Wow.
kind of made something beautiful out of something that was like crazy destructive.
Yeah.
And then they also sold things that were made out of like shrapnel, like just melted down parts from these like decommissioned pieces of ordnance that they like
Jesus.
melted them down and like made like spoons and keychains and like sold them in this market in Luang Prabang.
Damn.
But just the general vibe was just like everybody was so far away. And then also there was like a whole experience. I know that we were talking about your Colombia experience with
Getting robbed.
with getting robbed, but I was very close to getting robbed. If it wouldn't have been for this other whacked out like opiate addicted guy that was outside of my hostel, because I got back, there's like this tacky like, do you know like duck pin bowling? You know like these miniature bowling alleys, like there's like this shitty bowling alley in Luang Prabang, and it's like where all the backpackers hang out, and it's like dollar pitcher beer, and like it's just like it's a wild time. It's fun. You rip cigarettes inside, smoke all the opium.
Cigs inside.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Say less. Dude.
I know. It's just like it's literally like a dive bar bowling alley. It's like the coolest thing in the world in fucking Laos.
So give me the pin for that later.
Yeah, dude, I will. It's a good spot, especially if you want to leave and go back to your hostel and get robbed by some guys on a motorcycle afterwards.
Oh, no.
That's the best place to do that. Best one I found in Southeast Asia. 5-star review.
Yeah.
But yeah, after a few pitchers of beer and a few games of bowling, I went back to the hostel, and I was sitting down outside the hostel smoking a cigarette, and I think like I connected to the Wi-Fi, and I was just like on my phone, like looking around, and it was like kind of like a residential neighborhood off of like kind of like a little shopping street, and there was this random guy sitting outside, and he was like cold sweaty, like kind of had this like kind of like bugged out kind of look to him, but he was being really nice, and he was like trying to speak English to me, and
First red flag.
yeah,
Speaking English.
exactly. And he said something like, "You like opium?" But he showed me something. I forgot it had a name to it, but it was like kind of some kind of, I think, local kind of concocted opiate based thing that was like a popular like kind of like party drug there. And
a
he like
drink or
offered me
something?
some. No, it was like this kind of like, it was like a pressed kind of pill looking thing
God,
made out
pressed
of like
pills.
this like reddish like brick red kind of looking thing, but it's got a name to it. I think it's popular in that like kind of golden triangle like
Ooh, maybe from Myanmar.
yeah
They'd be slinging a lot of opium.
yeah. And so he was like, you want some? I'm about to smoke some. And I was like, yeah, no, I think I'm good. I had a little experience a few days ago. I'm good on
This
that
sounds like
now."
an anti-drug commercial
Yeah,
right now.
yeah. And then so I'm sitting there just like kind of like chatting the shit with this guy, and next thing you know, like this motorcycle is just like screaming down the street, lights off, and both guys are wearing like full-faced helmets.
Oh God.
And like slams on brakes when they see like me and this guy sitting out in front, like the little like front area in the hostel. And this was like outside, like the door was locked and you had to kind of go in past like the owner that was like sleeping like right by the door. So we're like fully like outside, kind of like locked out essentially. And I had been talking to the guy on the street for a while, and this motorcycle just like skids up in front of us. The guy in the back hops off, and he's got like a little like, those little tire clubs like that they use to like smack like transfer truck tires. They're just like this big like billy stick kind of thing. And he's got one of those in his hands, and he like reaches his hand out like, "Give me what you've got." And then the Laotian guy that was there that I've been talking to, I guess he's like, all right, this guy's a nice guy. He like yelled at them and then like kicked their motorcycle as they like sped off, but he like told them like, "Nah, don't fuck with this guy. This is my boy."
No
So
way.
like it was like this like serendipitous moment of like, wow, like this little like conversation and like sharing a connection with just a random human turned into like him like taking my back and like fighting off people trying to like beat the shit out of me with a fucking billy stick.
Wow.
So after that, and then kind of all the other experiences with like just feeling like a little outside, I kind of made the choice of like, maybe I want something a little different, a little more, I don't know. Like I like the wildness, but I don't like how far I feel away culturally. So I was like, I want to feel like a kind of welcoming, open culture. I still want to feel like the wildness that you feel like is like Southeast Asia and Laos. And so that's when I ended up in Vietnam. So I flew from Luang Prabang to Hanoi like the next day.
Wow, yeah, you got robbed the next day you left. That's exactly what I did in Colombia, dude.
Yeah,
I was like,
just
all right, this is enough.
Yeah,
Like,
I've
I've
got
had
a-
enough adventure.
Yeah, I got lucky, and let's get out while luck's in
I
my
didn't
favor.
know. See, I thought Southeast Asia was like super safe. I've heard stories
Yeah.
about Cambodia too, where like people will like hold you down with a knife to you and just like take all your shit.
Oh yeah, I had some weird experiences there too. But
Yeah, I think there's like gangs there in Cambodia.
yeah, it's honestly it's the most like Wild West place I've ever been.
Cambodia.
Yeah, and then also if you ever want an interesting stop in your adventures, I don't know exactly what the layout is now, but there's a place called Sihanoukville in Cambodia. I ended up living on an island in Vietnam, and Sihanoukville was like one of the closer points to the island, and I needed to do a visa run, so I needed to go into Cambodia, and I was like, fuck it. Me and a friend went to Cambodia for like, I think we were there for like a week on motorcycles, and ended up just going to the Sihanoukville place. But it's an interesting place because they've opened up this like free economic zone for China. So basically, I think the story is, and this could be maybe not all fact, but they've opened up this economic zone because they want to build a deep water port there. So they have a port that they can ship Chinese goods to Southeast Asia and have a deep water port there.
What's like tax free or something, or what does
Yeah,
free
so it's
economic
like
zone mean?
they basically, I think the Cambodian government, just given the corruption, wanted Chinese money, and so they said, yeah, you can build a port here, but said you're building it.
Gotcha.
So
like they're gonna
with
fund
that,
all of it.
they funded it and then also supplied the workers. But the interesting thing, and what I came to find out about the workers, is there was a couple of southern provinces in China, and again, this is kind of what I've heard and like kind of the story. I didn't like completely fact check all of this, but what was told to me is not only were they building the port, there was also, I think within the year that I was there, there was like 60 some casinos built.
Oh my god.
So they were building it as like a kind of a gambling destination, and the labor that they were using to build all these casinos were Chinese convicts. So basically, like there's like 3 provinces I think in southern China that they were like commuting people's sentences for work, saying, "Hey, if you can go here and work for a year, we'll take 2 years off your sentence." So basically, it's this town that's like a giant construction site. That's like all these casinos and like a constant, like everything's like dirt roads, like just fucked up because they never built any infrastructure around it.
Wow.
All
Yeah,
casinos.
Chinese convicts building casinos in Cambodia. What could go wrong?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like it was a wild place, and the streets are just crawling with like Chinese convicts.
Fucking hell.
So it's like everybody there is either like there's this, and before that, Sihanoukville was this like very like hippie town. So there's a lot of these like little homestays and organic gardens, and then this little strip by the beach is like that little sacred little hippie haven, and then you cross over into like the like special economic zone, and it's just like a like fucking construction site that is full of convicts.
So do you feel the edginess when you're there? Like, is it?
Yeah, it's wild. You can feel, and I mean, all of a sudden you'll see somebody ride through in like a G-Wagon, like coming through the construction site. So there's definitely like this vibe of like some kind of like organized crime, something going on that's not supposed to be happening.
Oh my god, it's gonna be like the next Macau meets Vegas meets like I don't even know.
Yeah, no, it's a wild place, man.
And then you went to Vietnam to do what?
Started off with just the intention of, maybe I'm going to spend a month here, maybe I'm going to spend 3 months. And so I landed in Hanoi, and like first day in Hanoi was just like, all right, I know this place is like where I need to be. Like I remember going out like the first night and like just having some awesome Vietnamese food, went to the little beer hoi, like beer street, and like hung out with some people from the hostel, and it was just like the best time. And ended up actually like randomly hanging out with a dude that was like pretty highly ranked UFC fighter that was like injured and like random. Taking some time off to backpack around Southeast Asia.
That's awesome.
But yeah, a buddy of mine, I told him like I'm going to Vietnam, and he was like, yo, I need to get out. He works in like building movie sets, so he'll work like 4 months straight, like 80-hour weeks, and then he'll have like 4 months off.
Nice.
So he's like, all right, I want to go to Southeast Asia. I want to do like some adventure with you. So I was like, word, let's do it. So he got to Vietnam. He got to Hanoi like 2 days later, and then we went on the adventure of buying motorcycles. So like these little,
bought them.
Yeah, these like little 110cc. So they're copies of like a Honda motorcycle called a 110. So it's like the horizontal shaft, like single cylinder engine, like little tiny motorcycle that like can't get out of its own way. Like it's very slow, like 5-speed manual. And so we both bought. There's a Vietnamese company called D-Tech that makes an exact copy of it.
Hell yeah.
And what's so crazy about it is you can buy a brand new one for like $400 US.
Wow.
Like a functioning motorcycle.
How functioning?
Like the brand new ones were nice, man. Like
really?
they made some that were like, they kind of had some like some modifications done. I think they had a variation that was like bored out to like 140 cc's that had like a little bit of torque to it that would, you know, move along pretty good, probably like 50, 60 miles an hour.
Wow.
But I mean, they're like really like skin and bones kind of motorcycles. But on the other hand, I didn't really know much about them, of course, in the beginning. And so we, of course, went to the first, you know, fucking Vietnamese used car kind of salesman type guy and was like, I'll have the best bikes for you.
Yeah.
And they ended up being just like heaping piles of dog shit. Like, I forgot what the ailment was with mine. I think that mine had something going on, like gear wise, that was wonky, that ended up being like, I don't know, like maybe a $10 repair, but my buddies just fucking leaked oil. It had like I think the cases had been split for some repairs and it just wasn't put together back right. And it just like leaked oil like crazy, and it was just like ragged out, like, you know, the shocks were super soft. It had just been through the fucking ringer. Like it had probably belonged to like 50 different backpackers like trying to do the trip. So I found out about this whole, either people do south to north or north to south in Vietnam. And my buddy only had a month, and I knew the trip, you would usually take about like 3 months to do the entire thing. So I was like, all right, let's not do like part of it. Let's just go to the north. So we went to the north of Vietnam and spent, I think, 3 or 4 weeks. We ended up like...
Wait, I thought Hanoi was the north.
It is the north, but like the very, very north. Like
right.
Ha
Giang Loop.
Yeah, Sapa,
Yeah,
like
I've
the
done
very
that.
north. So fun things that we did, I would say like highlights that we did while we were there. We ended up getting drunk in a random town with these dudes that were off-duty police officers.
Nice.
And we were like, where do we stay tonight? We were like, we don't see any hotels or anything. And they're like, well, there is this one place. And so we go around the corner. He, like, I guess knows the guy that runs the place. Ended up that there were a couple girls in like these like silk outfits downstairs, and they're like, you can stay here. You don't need to participate in the brothel that is this house, but you can rent the room just to sleep in. But it was obviously just like
A fuck shack.
Yeah. It was the most disgusting room I've ever been in my life. It had like black mold all over the ceiling. There was like no mattress on the fucking bed, and me and my buddy were like, all right, we're drunk, we're tired, like fuck it, let's just let's just do this. Yeah.
Wait, so it was just like there's no mattress, so what was it? Just a blanket?
It was
on
just
like
it was kind of like a little, like a glorified, like kind of like, you know, the little Japanese mattresses, like the tatami, like go on top of the tatami mat, kind of like that,
like a futon.
Just on top of the bed frame though.
It's kind of just like a big fat like comforter almost.
Yeah, I think that they just had it down for like a quick shag and then like would just swap it out, but it was.
Yeah, you better hope they swapped it out, my friend.
Oh, dude, I don't know. I mean,
fucking hell, man.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about it, but yeah, we stayed there for a night, and then.
Did you participate in the extracurriculars?
No participating in the extracurriculars.
Okay,
because, I mean, the talent was not where it needed to be for any kind of, you know, financial, you know, agreement.
I mean, if there's black mold, there's probably other things.
There was probably
black mold
things
inside
worse.
of them.
Yeah,
like,
things worse than black mold were living in that brothel house. But
were the girls friendly? Did they?
No. They were they were in the prime of their career. They were a little past prime, I would say.
Right. Right. It's
and
like a minor league baseball team.
Yeah, it was like it was like an adult, more like an older adult like softball team, I would say.
Wow, even
like a YMCA 55 plus kind of softball team. It wasn't the talent that you want on your roster.
Yeah. God damn.
Yeah, I'll just say that. But that was a kind of interesting thing that happened. We also sat down for a meal in a restaurant and like ordered, and this is like in small town, middle of nowhere, like only place to eat. We saw like it had pho on the sign, and we were like, let's go get some food.
Yeah, I know what that says. I'm gonna eat that.
Exactly. And sat down, ordered our food, and the guy that was working there was like really friendly, like old man. And he's like, where are you from? And we were like, oh, we're American. As soon as we said that, this guy's face like turned dark and was like, "Nope, fuck that." He said, "No, no," and took the menus off the table and then like yelled back in the kitchen, like I guess like don't make the food, and said, "Leave, leave now, leave now." So obviously there was some kind of like, I never ever had any kind of experience like that traveling.
Yeah, me neither.
But was literally told to leave a restaurant because I was American.
Was he older? Was he like Vietnamese, like
He was-
fighting age?
Yeah, yeah, he was definitely in that age. I would say that he was probably like, he was in like an old guy. Well, not old. I mean,
Like 70s?
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
probably around
yeah,
the
yeah,
age.
yeah.
Interesting, because I've
So-
met dudes in that age range that were literally wearing their Vietnamese army uniforms, and they were like, "Hey, let's take a let's
got
take a
another story for you
selfie,
there.
like let's fucking hang out, like." And they've definitely like killed Americans, like 100%. You know what I mean? But no, I never had anything like that in Vietnam or really anywhere actually.
Yeah.
Even
It was a
Iraq, like people don't
strange
really care.
experience. I guess other interesting things we did in the north. We there's an area where in the north of Vietnam where they share a border with China. The only thing separating the border is like this little barbed wire fence kind of. It's like these like rolls of barbed wire fence, but there's like area where you can kind of, if you wanted to go over or around and up the hill, you could. But me and my buddy were like, we're sneaking into China.
There's landmines, dude.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I didn't really know about that at the time. Anyway, I've got all my like, you know, all of my faculties about me. But yeah, we snuck across the border and like just barely into it. But the funniest thing is like in that area, like the roads are just like absolutely shitty in the north of Vietnam.
Yeah.
And what's so funny is like just as a big giant fuck you to Vietnam, the Chinese had like made this like really beautiful curb and gutter section to the road. But if you walked like maybe like, I don't know, 200 feet down the road around the corner, it goes back to like the shitty gravel road.
Right.
But they had like paved and made this like beautiful section of road as to say, fuck you, Vietnam. Look what we got over here in China.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just like popped over barely.
How did you find it? Because I was actually looking, because I've been to that place on a motorcycle. Me and my friend were on Google Maps just trying to get as close as we could.
Yeah.
And we were ended up on some like really narrow, they weren't even roads, they were just little bike paths, like kind of beaten down, like windy dirt paths. But we couldn't find it.
Yeah, no, I think the hostel that we stayed at, there was a really nice Vietnamese, like, she was kind of like, just seemed like kind of like a wild child Vietnamese girl that like owned the hostel and ran the hostel. And she told us, I was like, yeah, what is there like interesting to do? What is like something like crazy we could do? And she was like, well, if you want to see the Chinese border, this is where you can go to see it.
And you got in, you just, what, how did you get under the barbed wire? Like you...
Yeah, it was, I'll show you though. I actually took a
yeah.
picture of my buddy,
some
crawling
pics, dude.
under the, yeah, hold up. Let me pull it up really quick.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. to
Fuck,
think
we were
about.
looking for that place, dude. I mean, I wasn't going to go into China because I read about they have landmines and shit, but...
But this is my buddy Mike. And yeah, we got to snag the picture like
We're going to have to blur his face, dude.
Yeah,
He's an international criminal.
crawling under the barbed wire. But it's yeah, it's funny, man. We just took like some hilarious, like we were having a great time.
No, that
man.
looks fun, yeah.
Like, if you ever wanted to see a naked American man riding on a motorcycle. Yeah, dude, we were having a blast, and we ended up meeting these two Vietnamese guys that like rode all throughout the north with us. So we kind of had translators for like the whole tour. And one of the Vietnamese guys couldn't speak much English, and the only word that he could like remember to call me and my buddy was Papa. So he would always be like, Papa, Papa, come here. And so he just kept calling us Papa. It's so funny, man. He was just like this really strange
Holy
little guy
shit.
with this like huge motorcycle, like a 1200cc motorcycle riding with us. Like,
Well, like a Harley or...
no, it was a like some sort of like Honda naked bike. I don't know.
Oh, it was like a street bike.
Yeah, like kind of like Street Fighter type
Like
style.
a performer, like a fucking fast bike.
Yeah, and then was
On
riding
those tiny roads?
and riding with us dickheads on our little 110cc's.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
That's such an adventure, dude.
yeah, man. It was a good time.
How did you not... So did the Vietnamese guy tell you like, oh yeah, this is fine, you can do this, like cross into China?
They didn't go. Me and my buddy went.
Yeah,
and
maybe
they're
that's a
like-
red flag. You know,
Yeah,
like going
I mean,
forward.
looking back on it, yeah, I know. I guess I'm glad to like have all my limbs and not like, yeah, how'd you lose your leg in Vietnam? You know, snuck into China. Like, yeah, different era, man.
You'd be on
But,
the news. We'd be invading China. Dude, the world would be a different place if you got blown up, dude.
Could have started a world war there. That's kind of wild. Never thought about that.
That's wild.
But,
what was that? 2015?
That was 2017.
That was pretty. You're on the Hajong Loop kind of early then, because I did it just 2 years ago or a year ago, and I was like, it still feels super remote. It still feels like it's very authentically itself. It doesn't feel like it's made for tourists, and I feel like that's
cool,
coming.
man.
That's coming in like the next 10 years, but
it's crazy, man. Some of the scenery there is just like unlike anything I've ever seen. Like some of the like vertical faces and like just the mountainous terrain there. It's insane.
You can see it. It's like black rock. It's like volcano. It looks like Iceland.
Yeah.
But then it's super lush, and there's the rice paddies, and people are friendly. And people are so friendly in Vietnam. I like walked in on a wedding procession, or it was the reception afterwards. They were just fucked up on this rice wine, and they brought me in, and they were just like making me pound it.
Boy, do I have a story for you. Yeah. So before we would set out on this trip, we met this is like group of at a pool hall. We met this Vietnamese group. So it was this like flamingly gay Vietnamese dude named Ben that was just like the funniest, sassiest little fucker. And then his group, his girls, you know, like his group of like 5 girls. And so we found out that after we were getting back from our little month-long trip, that they were going to be getting married. So
wait, who was getting married? The gay guy and the girl?
And his female best friend. So in Vietnam, when you get married, you get money from the parents. So they were, you know, kind of planning on getting married, I guess, and kind of get some money from the parents.
So the parents thought he was straight.
Yeah, they didn't know.
So it was like a business transaction almost.
Very
like,
much so.
Give us some money and.
Very much so. So, yeah.
Great start to the story.
Yeah, so
I'm intrigued.
So yeah, we met them before we went out on the trip, and then came back, and like the day after we got back from the trip was the actual wedding. But in Vietnam, they do 2 weddings. They do a wedding in the guy's hometown. They do a wedding in the girl's hometown. Yeah, so we went to the wedding.
Wild camera roll, by the way. Your friend naked on a motorcycle. You sneaking into China.
Dude, you should see some of the hidden folders, man. Like I've got some great shit. Oh yeah, these were the cops the night before the brothel.
Wow,
those are those guys.
Fucked ass up, dude.
Yeah, so this is the gay dude in his harem.
Wow.
Yeah, this is us with the bride.
Oh wow.
This is the friends and the bride that are set to be married somewhat later. This is his hometown. We took a bus with like all of his like Vietnamese family. Oh my god. And like everybody was like drinking and playing and singing karaoke on this bus, and it was like a 2-hour ride like out like kind of northeast.
They love the karaoke, dude. They absolutely love the karaoke.
And it's like nobody can fucking sing at all. Like I feel like the Filipinos love the karaoke, but like you'll find a guy that's like real talented.
Same in Japan.
Yeah, but just like that was the thing, is like everybody loves, and it's, oh my god, I feel like it's like half of the time it's just like this like Vina house, like do 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 do, and just somebody singing like just like fucking screaming at 2 a.m. And it's just like it is insufferable, man.
They love it, and it's like they do it. It's not like drunk karaoke like white people. Like I'm gonna sing some Blink-182 and like belt out my lungs, and we're all gonna laugh at how bad it is. They like do it as like a legitimate performance.
Yeah.
They like pour their heart into it. Like,
they're trying.
Like I remember riding my motorcycle along some mountain road or something, and I heard karaoke, and I was like, oh cool, maybe there's a bar nearby, maybe there's something going on. And I look over, and it's just an old guy in his car with a microphone singing over the speaker in his car alone.
Oh yeah.
Where I'm like, he is into this. Like
they really fucking get after it. And I found one of the things that I loved in Vietnam were, I guess they just take a very different approach. And I mean, I think that there's some semblance of karaoke, I think, in a lot of Asian countries, or especially like more like, I guess, Eastern Asian countries. Yeah. But the thing that I loved about Vietnam is they have these like karaoke houses. And you go in, and they've got like the microphone. You can bring your group of friends, whoever it is. Mm-hmm. And you got like 10, 12 people in there. And then they'll just bring in like a fucking like 2 crates of beer and like a box of ice and some mugs. And you drink hot beer on ice and just sit in there and just like drink beer forever. And the beers, they charge you like the price you'd pay at the market. Like they make their money on the karaoke room. You know, they're like $10 that they charge you for using it for a few hours. Yeah. And then like charge you like grocery store price for the beers. So you spend like $5 on like 15 beers.
Damn.
And then just get absolutely tanked, and you can smoke cigarettes in there, and just like, it's the best. It's just, it's so dirty. I even learned I learned a Vietnamese song while I was there.
Really?
And like I always used to hit it on karaoke, and it would just always like Vietnamese people get really shocked when they hear a foreigner that can speak some Vietnamese.
That's amazing, yeah.
And
I mean, I speak a little Japanese, but I don't know any songs. Like, that'd be impressive.
Yeah, and I always like used to bust it out whenever there'd be karaoke, like whether it would be, you know, here, there, wherever.
Yeah.
And still to this day, Koimcho is what it's called. It's actually like this beautiful song, man. I love it.
Nice.
But
so you're in Vietnam fucking around. You weren't working. You said you like set up a hotel there or something. You like opened a business or something.
I ended up doing that little trip in the north. My buddy went back to start a new job, so that took like a month. Met up with a guy that I had met in Thailand that said he was going to be doing the north to south. German guy, like younger guy, like I think he was like 22, 23 at the time. And we met up in Hanoi. I helped him buy a motorcycle, like find like something good through my, process of buying like a real shithole one.
Yeah.
I actually ended up buying a new one.
You had so much to teach him about buying a motorcycle.
Yeah, and I bought a new one because the one that I bought was just an absolute piece of shit.
Yeah, you probably spend more money on repairs and the time.
Yeah.
Because that could ruin a day if something's fucked up.
And it honestly, it just made sense to me. And I've actually adopted I think that taught me a big philosophy in life of like, if you buy something that's like a good deal and it's like something that's reliable, you can use it for as long as you want and then sell it. And even if you lose like $200 or $300, like you rented that for 3 years for $200.
Well, there's a saying, buy cheap, buy twice.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
So I ended up buying like a nicer one. I think I spent like $350 on like a newer, like modern version of this motorcycle that ended up being super reliable. Never had any problems out of it. But met up with him and we started south, just the two of us. I think like one of the first few nights we ended up meeting this Dutch guy that name was Rick. So he joined our group like a few days in. And then a few more days later, we met this Swiss girl named Kemi. She joined us. And then I think it was 2 or 3 more days, and we met a Welsh guy named Josh. So it was like this kind of random, eclectic group that were just like all cycling together. And I was like, well, we obviously are a biker gang now.
Yeah.
So we need a name. But we ended up calling ourselves Die Wichser. So it looks like really rock and roll when you see it written. It's like German, but it's DIEWIXXER.
Nice.
And it looks like it's like something like hard rock and roll, like die, like death metal, and like but it means the wankers.
Nice.
Yeah, Wichser in German means like wanker. So we called ourselves Die Wichser. We made an Instagram and like we're just posting stupid stuff, and we like created like these games that we were doing along the way. We called this thing like the Dick of the Day. So if you did something stupid, like if you like took a little spill on your motorcycle, you were the Dick of the Day.
Yeah.
And so we had this like, we bought like a cattle bell, like a big like brass bell.
Wow.
And whoever was the Dick of the Day had to take the bell and put it on their motorcycle.
So it was like fucking just going
obnoxious as fuck all the time. And so the outfit like evolved. Like every few days we'd add something to it that you had to like have on you. So I think at one point like somebody found like a like child's sun hat on the beach. So like you had to wear that on top of your helmet. And then there were these like stupid sunglasses that we found that were like pink flowers that so the outfit evolved over time. So like if you were the Dick of the Day, you had to wear
So
the
you were just
outfit.
obnoxious as hell roaming around Vietnam, like with a cowbell and shouting to each other on the bikes in English.
Yeah. Well, we tried to keep it pretty tame.
Crashing.
No, definitely, man. Like it was such a fun trip because we took our time. Like none of us were in any kind of hurry. I mean, I think a couple had to like kind of like leave and step out through the trip and that kind of thing. But yeah, it was honestly no crazy, like nobody had any kind of injuries that were really bad. So that was good. I had a close call coming down a mountain pass where I had to like squeeze in this gap between a transfer truck and a concrete wall that could have ended it pretty quickly.
Yeah. I had a similar thing in Colombia. I was like trying to pass because the hills are so windy. It's actually much like Vietnam. The roads like super sketchy and people don't really know how to drive and really windy mountain roads. And I was trying to pass this one truck. I'll never do this again, but we were going up a hill and around a corner, and I was like, fuck it, I'll do it. I got 200 cc's on this bad boy. And try to go around him, and my bike was so fucking slow. It was just like barely creeping by, and then another semi was coming the other way.
Oh shit.
And I had to like, I mean, it was like something out of a cartoon. I had to kind of like squeeze my elbows in, and I felt like The truck on this side grazed my arm, and the truck on the other side grazed my
Oh,
arm.
fucking hell. Dude.
And I had to stop the bike. I was like having a full on episode.
No, I had that moment too of like, just like, I remember sitting there with my bike idling and putting both feet on the ground and like kind of like starfishing and being like, I almost died right there.
Yeah.
Like that was just about it. Like,
Yeah.
I was like scraping up against the wall, and then there was like this, like, it was like one of those like fuel trucks with like kind of like 8 wheels under it, like just like massively heavy, wasn't stopping, and was like coming down a mountain pass. Like it was, if it would have gone over me, it would have been like the end of it.
Yeah.
So
Yikes.
yeah, man, it's but the trip ended up being super fun. We made our way south. We kind of completed the goal of getting to Saigon. I think it took us like a month and a half or so. And at that point, part of the group had to leave. So we said, okay, we're going to fly to this island, Phu Quoc, in the south. And we're going to go there and we're just going to like unwind. Like we've been getting after it for like a month and a half straight. Like, let's go have a little bit of fun. So we flew there and ended up staying at this hostel that was like beautiful. And it was super cool. It was like brand new built. It was like kind of looked like, if you can imagine like what like a Shanghai neighborhood looked like in like 1920. It's like this like kind of old with like all these lanterns hanging. And it was just this beautiful building. And it was like $5 a night. And it had like this rooftop bar that overlooked the ocean. And it was like the most magical hostel ever. So anyway, we stayed there for the week, had fun, went out drinking, met all kinds of crazy people. Like there was a story of somebody throwing a beer keg off of the roof of the hostel and getting kicked out. There was there's pictures of me naked on the beach, like laying like a mermaid somewhere on my phone. Like just really, like we had a great time. It was like 5 days of just like partying on the beach in Vietnam. And I realized at that point, like, you know, I was, I think 4 months into the trip at that point. And I just realized like, I'm kind of tired of fucking packing my bag all the time. Like I'm kind of ready to sit still for like a month or two.
Yeah. And
so that's when I said, like, this hostel's been fun as fuck. And I made friends with the owner, which was like a 26, 27-year-old, born and raised in Germany, but father's Chinese, mother's Vietnamese, and the mother's family was from the island. So he was like kind of a serial entrepreneur. So like had like a pizza business, had an ice cream shop, had a hostel, had a homestay, and just like, you know, kind of came, I guess, with the German education and mindset and said, okay, let's figure out how to like, you know, be entrepreneurial here. And I think part of his kind of MO was meeting people that like maybe wanted to stay there for a little while and figuring out some kind of adventure that they could go on together. Like, you know, what is something new he could do entrepreneurially to give somebody else some creative liberty. So just told him like, hey, is it possible for me to like work here for like a month while I just chill? I want to sit still. I don't want to pack my bag. I'm like kind of ready for a break, sitting on the beach in like, you know, like 80, 90 degree weather every day. It's just like awesome. Work a few hours, bartend at the hostel, which as you can imagine was a pretty fun job. And so
like the coolest guy there at that point.
Had to be, man. Like probably the coolest guy in Southeast Asia at that point.
But if you're over 30, that's...
Yeah, it was like 28, 29.
Okay,
so
because over 30, that's kind of sad. Give me like a 42-year-old bartender at the hostel, like, yikes.
Exactly, but I was like that cool experience, like 28 years old, you know, like worked a little bit and like, you know, still young enough to the hair wasn't leaving by then, you know what I mean? Still had a full head
Those were the days.
Yeah. But anyway, ended up becoming like good friends and hitting off well with the owner. And he basically came to me and said, look, there's a property that the family owns that's currently in the night market, that's in the like town of Phu Quoc. And he's like, we're either going to rent out the space to somebody that wants to put like a souvenir shop there, or if you're interested in sticking around on the island a little bit longer, I'd love to like have something else in my kind of portfolio to go there. So in my time while I was in Saigon the weeks before, I had gone to this bar called Acoustic Bar, and Vietnamese love live music. And so my first kind of venture outside of like after college was playing music, and have this like deep love of like playing, writing music. And I was like, I think something like this would go over super well on the island. So fast forward a month and a half later, I created a business plan, presented it to him, like, here, this is exactly what I want to do. I want to have craft cocktails. I want to have live music and like have this in the night market, like something to cater towards backpackers, something to cater towards locals in the low season, and like just something that kind of, bridges the gap between both.
Yeah.
So
would it be like higher end kind of atmosphere, or
not necessarily. It kind of started off with that idea of like a little bit more thoughtful, and then I think the money hungry and like just the ability to access more people kind of came into play, and it kind of turned into more like, creating like the little spinning wheel. It's like, all right, do you get a shot of rice wine, or do you get like a free beer, or whatever it was? And so turned into like drinking games, like, and like the big Jenga, and like, all of this stuff that like, maybe backpackers want to do. But the crazy thing about the whole process was that, like money speaks in Vietnam. So if you want to do something and you just have money to throw at it, you can make it happen immediately. Yeah. So
that's one of the best things about the country. I feel like that's what kind of annoys me about Japan, is like they're so rigid in their
for sure
thing. Like they can't call audibles in life. They're just like, well, no, that we can't do that because that's not the rule. Like,
yeah.
So
100%.
That's pretty sweet in Vietnam. You can just do that.
And I mean, it's a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, part of it, like, at any time the police can come in and be like, I need, X amount of money, and like you're kind of forced to pay that.
Yeah.
But anyway, we went from, sitting down and having this conversation, like, do you want to do this? This was like, in a month and a half later, we had like opening day for house number 1.
Nice.
So basically, cocktail bar with a live music stage, and then like a little outdoor patio, like seating area. Had everything from like juices to like, the cheap beer to like kind of some local craft beer, and then kind of made like a cocktail menu with like kind of an American theme to it, with like kind of a musical theme. There was like a drink I remember called an American Woman. That was, I forgot exactly what all was in it. I think it was like a whiskey Coke, but it had Vietnamese like cold brew infused in it. So it was like a whiskey Coke with cold brew.
Interesting.
And then Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Heart was a margarita with black pepper infused tequila in it. So it was all like musical reference stuff.
That's cool, yeah.
And so, yeah, man, I started like, I mean, it was something that kind of encompassed all of my time.
So you were like a full-on business owner.
Yeah. So like basically day to day, his portion was like kind of as the investor financier. And so he handled all of the renovation, all of the equipment, everything, like to get the business like up and running.
Yeah.
And then I handled the day-to-day operations, the staff, all of the social media, all of the advertising, signage, like everything operational, I was in charge of. Which ended up being kind of the downfall of it, because it was so much time and effort.
Yeah.
And of course, I guess as anything is at first, like it just takes everything you've got to make your little idea happen.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think after doing that for, I don't know, I think it was like 6 or 9 months, and like getting through a low season and kind of figuring out the positioning perfectly of the business, I just realized like, I'm putting so much time and effort into something. And it was after leaving, a New York City job. I was like, I kind of know my street value. I know what my time is worth. And I was like, the effort that I'm putting into this, like, I don't know that I love it that much.
Yeah.
And I don't know that this is like something super long term. And
how long was it in business for?
So it's still going. It's
really?
Still like, yeah, it's been, I think, I'm not exactly sure now who owns it, but someone bought it and I think that they've moved the venue. But it still has the same name, and kind of still has
your
a
equity in it and like said peace.
Yeah, I kind of got my investment out of it and left and went back to the U.S.
And then fast forward, you quit your big, high-powered job in New York, and then now you're here.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So
let me piss for a second. I gotta fucking rip one. Hold on,
dude. Go for it.
Okay, I know we've been going for a minute, but I would like to hear about your Japan trip, because I feel like that's why we started this.
Yeah, man.
And we need to to kind of put a bow on this.
Yeah, for sure.
But I have a lot of questions. Like, so you're just like lost in the sauce again. You're like wondering what you're gonna do next. So you like come to travel. Classic move.
Yep.
Fucking classic. So you've been on the road for like 40 days. Yeah, it's raining today. I mean, has the weather been like dog shit the whole time, or?
No, it actually hasn't been that bad. I've only had, I think, 3, and I've carefully timed my days off around like bad weather. So if I know that there's going to be like just a completely rainy day like today, taking it off.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I just,
for sure.
honestly, I can deal with me myself being wet. The two things that become difficult are just the like safety aspect of like being on the, shoulder of a road and like trucks screaming by you and
Yeah.
just ripping down mountain passes like 30 miles an hour and like it just becomes uncomfortable. It just isn't really worth it for the risk factor. And then the second is like actually just from riding on the like kind of shoulders of roads, there's like all the little tiny dirt and sediment and it gets all in the gears on the bike. And then it's really difficult to like, it just becomes really difficult to keep everything kind of moving like it should.
Yeah, plus you're just freezing on the bike. I mean, you have to have the proper gear, and it's like getting all in your eyes, and like
man,
your hands are wet, and
less than ideal at times, but it hasn't been that bad as long as I've got shoe covers, and then I wear like spandex.
Oh, you weren't joking, like full on like fucking superhero.
Spandex bottom, but I wear like this on the top, and then when it's raining, I've got like a good like Gore-Tex jacket that keeps me nice and dry, and then like a couple layers, like a wool base layer if I need to throw it on and be warm. But yeah, man, and personally a pet peeve is just being wet. Fucking like wet
horrible.
socks is like the bane of my
wet
existence.
Socks, wet underwear. Wet underwear is pretty bad.
Yeah,
because your ass starts to itch. And
It's
nasty.
I don't need any help getting swamp ass. So like anything to not have to deal with that. And
so you started in Kagoshima. Where'd you go from Kagoshima?
So Kagoshima, I kind of cut across to the west coast of Kyushu. So the first day had some pretty wicked hills in it. Actually, like right out of Kagoshima is like 120-meter climb, like straight up, like a mountain essentially. And I was like, is this whole fucking ride about to be like a mountain climb?
Yeah.
But yeah, first day I was kind of taking it easily at first because I wasn't quite back in cycling shape. I think everything was fine, like muscular wise. Took me a while to get the cardio back where it needed to be. So I took it relatively easy the first few days. I kind of cut across to the west coast. I think the first day I did around 60 kilometers.
What do you average per day?
Now around 100. Yeah,
that's it's like 70 miles.
Yeah, 60 miles. It's like I think it's like 63 miles.
Okay.
A day, and then with like quite a bit of elevation change. But I guess at this point, it's like I wake up and my legs will be a little sore in the morning. Not sore, just like they feel a little spent. But after I get a good 10 kilometers in, my body's just back into the rhythm, and I'm good to go.
What's the first 10 kilometers like then? Just like hell on earth?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. It's not terrible. I hadn't really struggled with any chafing or any kind of like saddle soreness, which is typically what people get on like longer bike tours. I haven't had to deal with any of that. Just some like, especially like quad stiffness, because there's quite a bit of climbing and quite a bit of quad usage.
Even on the coast, because I feel like the coast would be like really flat.
Yeah, but still there will be maybe a jut out that you have to kind of climb around. But for a large part, not a ton of climbing. But at a certain point, like when I had to cut across from like Akita, like up to Odate to Aomori, like you have to go over like I think I did 2 days consecutively with like around 3,000 feet of climbing in both days.
Fucking hell.
So some of that is like pretty intense. And then the bike, I've got, my tent, my sleeping bag, my sleeping mat, clothes, and I've packed pretty light.
How many nights per week are you camping, and how many are you staying in like hotels?
So usually it's 3 or 4 nights of camping and then 1 night in a hotel. Sometimes I'll stay 2. If I'm taking a day off, then I'll always stay in a hotel just so I can have a little relaxation, do some laundry, and mainly is like finding places I can go to a bike shop. Like if I need, like the other day I ran over like a little fucking thing of Staples and it like gave me a double puncture and I couldn't plug it, I couldn't patch it, and I just put a tube in it, and then I had to go to a bike shop here to get some things to like kind of.
The bike shops here are pretty good.
They're hit or miss. They're either like super generic, like just catering to people with like cheap like kind of city bikes, and then, but I think it's like a lot of things here. Like you have a lot of just like kind of like a general side of things, and then you have the specialty. But the specialty bike shops here are really good, and especially here in town, there is a bike shop, and the guy's like outfitted his bike shop for like kind of off-road like cycle touring, and he's got like a lot of like kind of specialty stuff, and like
so you like get all your shit you need here and keep it going.
Yeah, yeah. And it just ended up, I went there yesterday and I talked to the guy for like 4 hours.
Hell
Just like
yeah.
super cool guy. He showed me like all kinds of pictures of his bike packing, showed me his bike, and showed me upstairs and like all of his like, you know, all of his frames and all of his unique shit. And like,
Nice.
yeah, just like super cool guy. But
Yeah, I feel like Japanese people take it so seriously when they're really into something. so
yeah,
it's-
and just like
it can be
find
good.
something really to like dig into and specialize in,
Yeah.
and like just found this like cool little niche. But yeah,
Hell
no, so averaging at first was like 60, 80 kilometers a day, and did, so I went from, if anybody's sitting by a computer wants to follow along, went from Kagoshima to a town called Satsuma Sendai, stayed in a little, like honestly, a public park, waited till dawn, or waited till dusk and set up my tent. Took a nice dude wipe bath that night,
Hell yeah.
and then carried on north and ended up staying in a town called Minamata. And I know we chatted about that earlier.
Yeah.
But
The Minamata syndrome or whatever.
yeah, Minamata disease.
What is it?
So, and some of these details are loose, but this is my understanding of it. But during, I think it was 50s, 60s, there was a commercial fertilizer producer in the town that was like on the river. So I guess they used water as a part of the fertilizer production, but something in the effluent from the production had mercury in it. So there was like this widespread mercury poisoning that just like infiltrated the ecosystem, not only from the water. So people were getting the water, drinking the water that had mercury poisoning. The fish that were in the water that they were catching and eating had higher levels of mercury. The water that they were using to plant the crops had, you know what I mean? So
Wow,
it just like kind
everything.
of got in everything, but created some birth defects. So I think that they range from everything from like kind of completely, you know, complete disability to
Yeah.
just some like, I think that there's a couple of like telltale things. One of the most obvious, and actually I met someone that had kind of this in Minamata that had this kind of ailment, but it causes like this swelling of joints in the hand. So it creates this like almost like claw. So yeah, I stayed there and ended up, found a campsite, was going, asking around like for somewhere to camp or find somewhere to eat for the night, because there was like nothing on this little peninsula. And there were these two old people sitting outside their house, just drinking beer, smoking cigarettes, having a good time. And they were really nice when I was like trying to ask them, you know, are there any restaurants, this thing? And, you know, in like 2 exchanges on Google Translate, they were like, are you hungry? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, let's go. And so 10 minutes later, I'm getting in a cab, you know, with these people. They've already given me a beer or two and said, hey, you can set your tent up, you know, in our driveway. Completely
Nice.
fine. No worries. So we went to this little like izakaya, and they ordered all this food and had these things they wanted me to try. And at the end of it, I was like, yo, so nice for you guys to take me here, pay for the cab. I was like, nah, let me pay for dinner. And they like refused and like paid for everything. And it was just like these super nice people telling me about their life, telling me about like their career, their kids, their family.
Aw.
And
This was just a random encounter. You didn't know what was
yeah, just
in
completely.
this town. Like,
I had no idea. It was just the next place that was like, you know, 60, 70, 80 kilometers away. Then I was like, okay, I found this little park that was on an island on the map. I said, cool, let's fucking go there.
yeah.
And so ended up cycling to it. And like, that's how I, you know, ran into these
Wow.
people and had this cool experience. But woke up the next morning to breakfast. They made me like a little onigiri and some miso soup and like a little glass of tea. And
That's so nice.
yeah, but I got their address. So when I get to Wakanai, I'm gonna send them a postcard to be like, I made it, guys. I made it.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, but I've got some like I took some selfies with them. They're just like the cutest little like old people, and are both like, you know, all of like 5'2" and just super happy.
So
Just
they're a
super
couple.
nice
They're like
people.
married, or are they
Yeah,
just friends?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. They're married.
That's
they,
super
They met.
precious.
They both worked in the hotel together. She worked
That's
at the front
nice.
desk, and he was like the maintenance man.
Yeah.
So I guess.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, but just super sweet people, and like it was just amazing to me that people were so open and like, yeah, I don't know, like this, I don't know, almost feel like there's this like built-in compassion for travelers here. Yeah, and like they were just, it was just such a genuine good experience. It's just, you know, the one that makes you feel all warm and fuzzy on the inside.
Yeah, they were like took you under their wing, like, come on, we're gonna show you this, that, and the other.
Yep.
I think that happens when you're like super, super, super deep. Like if you were in Tokyo, that would never happen.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
it might
yeah,
happen
yeah.
to like a lesser extent, but they're so used to seeing other people that whatever. But the fact that you like put yourself out there, I think the universe like repays you in some way. I mean, some days you will eat shit. Like I've definitely gone out on a limb, ate bags of shit before, but like sometimes you can like really, which is why I was surprised with your story from Lao, because it was like, if you're that deep in the culture, it almost seems like they would be like, oh, who's this guy? Like if you were in fucking Boone, North Carolina, and you saw like a guy from China just like walking around, stumbling around, and be like, hey, what the fuck? Come on in, have a beer.
Yeah,
like,
dude, come on.
Like I don't know. But it's just not that way all over the world. But in Japan, it definitely is.
Yeah,
so,
man. It was such a good experience. And then continued north. The next day, it was like my first time like riding in the rain. It was kind of miserable, but made my way from Minamata to Kumamoto, and I was like, okay, I've been cycling for 4 days. Like, I need a break. Like, cycle through the rain, everything's wet. Ended up staying there. I think I took like 2 nights in the hotel there, with the hotel with the onsen, which was amazing.
Oh yeah, that makes a huge difference. So I don't know if we've actually said, but you're going all the way south to north in Japan. I feel like we should have probably started with that information. But
south to north. That is the current journey.
Sick.
But yeah, kind of left there, and then had another really cool experience a few days later, where I got stuck in the rain once again, like high up on a mountain pass. And there was like this little tiny like charcoal grill restaurant. I don't know exactly what it's called in Japanese, but this little old lady brought me in. I was cold. I was soaking wet. Everything was wet. My shoes, my socks, everything. She like handed me towels.
Oh my God.
Brought me in. Like, I told her I was vegetarian. She like cooked me like way too much food, like enough food to feed like 3 people. Also gave me coffee before I ate the food, which was like, I don't know if I told you earlier, but I just like, coffee does not agree with me well. But it was kind of created a funny story, because I drank the coffee and then I ate all this food, and then like it hit me like this is not going to be good. Yeah. And what was funny is because she was so sweet. I just wanted her to like talk to my girlfriend just so I could like hear more instead of like Google Translate conversation. And my girlfriend said, yeah, she said that she's worried about you. She said you drank coffee and now you've been in the bathroom for the last hour.
You were in there for an hour?
I had to go back 3 times, man. And it was one of those like,
why'd you drink it?
Yeah,
just to be nice?
It was cold, man, and I needed the warmth. Like, it was just like,
the cold,
yeah, man. And like, it was like one of the traditional Japanese toilets with just the hole in the ground.
No.
And dude, navigating
that's a nightmare of mine, actually, is to have like liquid shit and then have to squat and
in spandex. And like, so I'm not gonna lie, I took everything off. Because like, to take the like singlet off, it like goes over your shoulder, so you got to take your shirt off, like if you got to go take a dump. So I took my shirt off, and then I was trying to like squat with the spandex on, but I couldn't like move my legs out, so I was like, fuck it, I got to take it off. So at some point somebody could have seen something amazing, which would have been my naked ass in there, completely ass naked, standing over this like traditional Japanese toilet, like unable to bend down because like my legs are fucking sore. And then I'm trying not to like slip, but I just had it in my mind. I was like, I'm gonna slip because my legs are sore and I've got these fucking wet socks on, and I'm gonna end up falling in my own shit in this Japanese toilet. God. And then I'm gonna have to tell this old lady that I need some socks, like yeah, I just
like, hey, you got an extra spandex suit? Because mine's covered in diarrhea.
Yeah, dude, I thought it was about to be like a real shitty situation, I thought that was about to happen.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah, man. After that, and she was like offered to drive me to, I was going to Oita, which is on like kind of the northeast side. Like that was my last stop in
Shikoku?
Yeah, in Kyushu.
Oh,
and
Kyushu's so I was going, the southernmost?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and then Shikoku is like kind of like northeast from that. So I was going from there by ferry the next day to Shikoku. But yeah, that was another like just kind of cool experience there, and climbed by my second active volcano.
Nice.
Aso, which is like a beautiful, like just absolutely surreal area. It's just like this high plateau with like nothing really high growing, and it's surrounded by this. It's like got a mountain range that kind of like encircles it, kind of.
That's
it's
cool.
like these, but it's like these very vertical. Like, I don't know, the mountains here in Japan are just very different. I think like just the volcanic nature is just different than what we have.
Well, they're
in like
shorter
North
and
America.
Really, really steep.
Yeah,
they're like small, and, like, very steep.
It's
mountains.
almost like I feel like I'm in Avatar sometimes. It's like these mountain like faces like go straight up, and then there's like trees kind of growing back out, and it's like how does this happen?
That's cool. I feel like the pace of the the bike allows you to really take things in at a slower, because like I rode, I don't think I told you, but I rode my motorcycle across Europe a couple years ago, and I much prefer that to a car, because in a car, like you're like in this shell, you're isolated from nature, you're isolated from the elements, and like that can be good and bad, right? Like there were days where it was raining and I was like on the border of Ukraine and fucking Moldova, and it's like a dirt road. It's 3 a.m. and I'm like, I would do horrible things to be in a car right now with like some heat and like a podcast on and like my friend driving and we're talking shit and like, but I think it's like there's just a broader range of experiences. I think when you're like in a car, you're so safe, and same as with the train, like you're so safe. Well, now the train's in India, but like you're comfortable, like things are taken care of, someone else is in charge, and you have this kind of like middle ground of experience where it's like reliable and it's not going to be terrible, it's not going to be great. But then the bike, I've never ridden on a bicycle like you're doing, but on a motorcycle is like, you have like the best days of your life, and then you have like followed by the next like a month of just like eating dicks every single day, you know.
100%.
And I think your story of like the rain really reminded me of like some bad days on the motorcycle, dude. Like
when you're like when you're soaking wet and you can feel that like bead of like, you can finally feel water like get to your nuts, and you're like, I'm actually all the way wet. Like I'm fully wet. Everything is soaked. Yeah, man. The rainy days on like something moving in the elements is not really.
You're just so vulnerable, and it makes you really realize it. But I was gonna say, I think the bicycle might be better in some respects. Like you're going slower. Like on the motorcycle, you know, I had like a 600cc bike, so I could go 80 miles an hour if I wanted to, and it's loud. It's like a street bike. But the bicycle, you're silent. Like you move, and the birds don't fly away, and like you can. It just feels like a little bit more of a honest way to move around.
Yeah, man. I think that, you know what, I really did like a kind of an analysis of my like the things that maybe I could label them as passions, hobbies, the things that I really like and care about. And I think that one of the main aspects of, you know, if I look at, you know, for me, those things are fishing, those things are cycling, those things are riding and building a motorcycle. And I think the thing that is like kind of the common aspect in all of those things is they require you to do that thing that's the opposite of when you're in a car. When you just get in autopilot mode, you're comfortable and everything's just like, all right, I got to keep it between this line and that line, and I can do all these other things on the side. But when you're cycling and, you know, you're on the shoulder of the road, you have to constantly be in the moment. And there's like this completely cathartic experience where you have to be on all the time and just like have to be in the moment. Like you can't be sitting there thinking about, oh fuck, what am I gonna, you know, what am I gonna do next in life? And that's been the big thing for me, is like, how can I use this as a distraction to force myself to live in the moment and let those kind of next endpoints and next dots on the map kind of, you know, reveal themselves to me. Because I think it's all about like, hey, if you're doing the right process, the natural next points will kind of reveal themselves to you. If you're building the process and doing the right thing,
open.
Exactly. Then you're going to find the right thing. And I think that that's what the motorcycle and like also being on a bicycle does for me.
It's exhausting though.
Yeah, it has
4 hours on the bike is like 12 hours in a car, I think. For me, at least, I'm spent after just a few hours.
Yeah, it's been, you know what, I think it's taught me some, you know, besides the trip and the route and like some of the experiences, I definitely have like 2 specific things I want to tell you about. One involving, to build a little expense, an animal attack. Another involving a small time spent in detention at a Japanese police station.
Well, you got arrested?
I wasn't officially arrested. I was detained and questioned. Yeah.
How did they?
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit about that. But you know what? I think that like these lessons that I've learned in cycling are, you know, the cycling can be exhausting. If you want to go cycle 100 kilometers in a day, like there's ways to do it and there's ways to not do it. And the thing, like, I've just realized these small things, like just little lessons along the way, like how important like your nutrition is for that, and how important hydration is. Because if you know, are all hungover and fucking didn't drink any water the day before and ate like shit, cycling is going to be a fucking nightmare. But if you're smart and you know, maybe stop on your cycle every hour or so and have like a small snack and keep some kind of carbs in your system, keep hydrated, like it's amazing how like these little tiny changes are just like can make your day, and like I think in a bigger way like make your life so much better, like just these little small changes. And I think that that's one thing that's kind of like revealed to me is like how important these small and like positive habits can be in life.
Yeah.
So
No, I commend you for doing it, because I mean, like, most people just go with the most comfortable way, the most comfortable means of traveling. I don't know if it was, I was talking to you yesterday, somebody in the hostel, where I was like describing when the cruise ship pulled in. I was like, oh, these fucking pigs got off the boat, and just like, you know, everything's handed to them. And like, there was a little bit of resentment there. I mean, although like after what you're doing, a cruise ship would be super nice. But I just mean people that always go for the easiest possible route, I think are missing out on like those opportunities for growth. I mean, because like you're not challenged on a cruise ship. I mean, challenged maybe on like what to eat and how much to eat, but not like necessarily, you're not going to like grow at all.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? So
no, I agree completely. And that was the, you know, I found this Japanese word in the process of like kind of, you know, I was telling you earlier about kind of this checklist I wanted to run through, like spend some time with the family, do something that's like a big physical challenge, etc. I found this Japanese word called misogi. And so basically it kind of, I think some of the roots go back to like, you know, very ancient Japanese times. And like basically the word means like kind of like a cleansing by water. And so there's some American guys, I forgot what their name is, but basically they've kind of started this like challenge and kind of this movement behind doing something that is completely out of the ordinary that you would normally do, something that is hard to like duplicate, so it's like a unique experience that you're always going to hang on to, and something that really, really pushes you to your physical limit. And then rule number 4 is don't die. So that's kind of like the idea that I kind of adopted with this trip, was this misogi, because I knew that like, you know, the big thing I think, you know, maybe a part of this journey is just kind of this search for, you know, there's all these kind of like pieces for me hanging of like what's next.
yeah.
And I think that like that what I came for a bit in search of was like just some direction of like, what is that right next thing for me? You know, is it moving back to Denmark into somewhere I'm comfortable with? Is it, you know, going back to North Carolina and maybe pursuing something related to fishing and starting a guiding business? Is it, you know, moving to London to be closer to the girlfriend? Like what exactly is the right thing for me to do next? Because there's these endpoints that I've defined, but I just don't know which one's the best. So I just need a little bit of silence to the noise, and like really spend some time getting to like back in touch with what's super important to me right now. Yeah. And I think that it's been really good for that, and like giving me that direction on is the path I'm on the right place to be? Am I doing the right thing? So
yeah. So you feel like you couldn't get that in everyday life? Like there's too much shit going on.
Yeah,
you
man.
to, like,
it's
detach from everything.
It's so easy to get lost in the day to day, I think. And I think that that's another important thing about it. It's like in that misogi, they say like kind of the change of venue into like a place that you normally wouldn't go. So it's like now you have this detachment of this place, of this experience that is unique there. Gotta pee real quick.
Oh yeah, go for it. No worries. Here, you know what? Let me. I'm gonna make this coffee. You can just keep talking.
Yeah, for sure.
We were no, you're talking about misogi or some shit, being drenched by life or some kind of allegory for struggle and
exactly. But no, I've kind of looked at it like that, like just using it as like kind of a, and honestly, like thinking back to the rainy days, and you know, you're talking about rainy days on the motorcycle, rainy days on the bike.
Yeah.
Those are the days where it's kind of difficult, but I've realized like those days where it kind of sucks, that's the days you're like really in the moment and really, you know, in what you're doing. And then that's the days that you really appreciate that warm bed. That's the days you really appreciate that little break you can take to get a little snack. So I don't know, man. It's I think it's helped me too. I think the big thing that I've realized, like kind of my big takeaway so far, is just taking more time to like listen to my body, listen to myself, and listen to the things that are like, rather than trying to think 50 miles down the road to endpoints, just really taking it and like being in the moment, trusting in the process of what I'm doing, and that will lead me in the right direction.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to have everything figured out and stressing about like, what is next? Because like everybody wants to know like, where's going to be the next, you know, meal? Where's going to be the next place? Where's going to be, you know.
But if you get too far ahead of yourself, that's when you crash. That's when you like make unsafe decisions. And
exactly.
Yeah, I hear you, dude.
Yeah, man. So it's been, yeah, I think taught me the lesson of, live in the moment, be in the moment, and don't get too far ahead of yourself and just enjoy kind of what's in front of you.
Yeah, well, no, it seems like it's it's a good lesson for like what you're trying to do right now, like trying to figure out the next step, but maybe you're just obsessing too much over it to where you're not being productive in that direction.
Oh, for sure.
Like, yeah, I've been there, like overthinking and shit. I mean, yeah, the bike's a great way to do it. Do you listen to like podcasts and shit, or are you just like totally zenned out? Like,
it depends on the day, man. Kind of depends on the, kind of my headspace, but there's been a mixture between audiobooks. The fact that Spotify now has audiobooks on them is pretty sweet. So
ads, or is it just
no ads with premium.
Nice.
But you only get 10 hours a month, which is usually like maybe a book and a half. And then after that, like you literally can't listen, or you can buy like a top up 10 hours or so. But yeah, man, been listening to a bit of some music, probably honestly more music than I'd like. I'd like it to kind of be spending the kind of, everyday time doing something that's a little bit more productive, or like, listening to a podcast or reading a book. But podcast wise, I don't know, man. I helplessly love Theo Vaughn. Have listened to a lot of this past weekend. I don't know, man. I feel like just being a Southerner and him growing up in Louisiana, there's just like...
He's got a great podcast.
Yeah, man. And when he tells a story about, and I honestly think like half of the people that he's like, oh yeah, there was this dude Randall in my town,
fake,
and he was like,
fake,
yeah, it's all made up, but it's so funny and it's so relatable because like there was that guy in my town. I'm like, I know fucking Randall.
Yeah. Randall with the bum knee.
Like, I know Lil Daniel. I know these people. Like that dude was in my town. I went to high school with him. So yeah, I do, and I don't know. I think that it's so funny seeing him get more of a platform because it's like he's interviewing people I just like never really like saw him interviewing, like kind of earlier on in the podcast a couple years ago. Yeah, and I think it's cool. Like when he did the episode with Billy Strings, like that was a really good one.
Who's that?
He's like an insanely talented guitar player. That does like kind of bluegrass, like flat picky kind of stuff. But he's gotten really popular kind of like, I don't know, it's like almost like this bluegrass, but like adjacent to like kind of like he's got kind of a following like a Widespread Panic kind of thing. Like kind of festivally. Yeah.
Acid.
Yeah, but he's kind of, I think, accessed a little bit more of the like normal populace because it's like just kind of catchy, more kind of country bluegrassy.
That's always an interesting mix of people. Like I've been to like jam band shows in Athens, like where UGA is, like big college town, similar to Asheville, a little more fratty and country than Asheville is. But you'd go to these like jam band shows where it's like fucking, like Molly from like the Crystal Shop with like a white girl with dreadlocks who's on like 2CB or something, and then you have like Joseph from like Sigma Nu who's here with his bros, just 7 Miller Lights deep. Like it's such a weird crossover of people at those shows.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's super funny. There's actually a band called Big Something that's like from the town beside me. And one of my buddies plays guitar in the band, and it's so funny because they've gotten huge, but they've definitely kind of have that like jam bandy following. Nice. That it's like, you've got the exact mix. You've got some like corporate guy that likes to let loose on the weekend a little bit and might smoke a little weed, maybe dabble with a little like MD or something. And then you've got the straight up like hippie dreadlocks, doesn't talk to anybody, is just in the front row dancing with their like neon lights on their fingers. And it's
hippies are an interesting bunch because you can get like, I feel like everybody needs a little bit of that, but then when you go like so far off the deep end, like, dude, I met a guy actually in Turkey. He was Russian, and he like walked. No, actually, he was cycling. I think he cycled from Russia to Turkey, and then he like snuck across the border of Israel, and then like went to prison in Israel. And he's like, dude, these borders are just like man-made, man. Like this is my earth. And I'm like,
yep.
You entitled piece of shit. Like you can't just walk into like a highly militarized country and expect it to be fine. Like
can't sneak across borders to countries, right? I'm a giant piece of shit. Thanks, motherfucker.
But at least you were like, haha, like I shouldn't be doing this. This is fun. He was just like, this is wrong, man. Borders are wrong.
It's a man-made line, man. Speaking of a line, you want to do a line?
Exactly, yeah. Oh, shit. No, so man. You're in where were we? You're in what were we talking about?
So I think I've made the way from across Kyushu. So took a ferry from Beppu over to, I think it's called Yanagawa, I believe is what it was called.
Did you go to the hot springs in Beppu?
I didn't have the time. I was just kind of like in a crunch and ready to get on with the.
Has that been like a big theme in this trip where you're just like, fuck it, I got to keep going? Or is it
Some
been
days.
like, hey, let's chill for a week here?
Yeah, man.
Like,
There's been times that I've like there's been multiple times that I've said like, yeah, fuck this. Like I don't want to do it anymore. Like I'm burnt out. I don't want to do it. Blah 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 blah. But there's been multiple times I've told myself like, you know what? Yes, it makes logical sense that you'd want to quit. Okay, there's a lot of repetitiveness. It is getting a little bit boring. You're seeing some similar scenery. But it's again that fixation on the finish line versus
Wakana, right?
Wakanai. Yeah, and I was telling you earlier that's kind of been the funny like, and people that maybe understand a little bit of Japanese, that's been kind of the running joke is like people are like, where are you cycling? And I'm like, well, I'm going from Kagoshima to Wakanai, and they're like, Wakanai. So for those of you that maybe don't speak Japanese, the northernmost city in Hokkaido is called Wakanai, and then the phrase "I don't know" in Japanese is wakanai. So people are asking me where I'm cycling, and at first I was accidentally saying Kagoshima to wakanai. So like Kagoshima to I don't know, which has been kind of what I've been doing, just kind of planning it day by day.
For sure.
So it was actually like this kind of funny like
Yeah.
like accidental slip of the word there, but it's actually
Figuring out
kind
day
of,
by day.
Yeah, it's been the theme of the trip, I reckon.
That's sick.
But yeah,
That's a cute little.
yeah, cute little
Make a little
overlay.
t-shirt out of
Yeah,
that,
man.
like,
If I
make stickers and sell
yeah, I've
them
been
or
thinking about
something.
making like a little like getting some of the photos I've taken printed and making like a little album, and maybe that's like the title, like getting that printed, and maybe like in Japanese, like getting the kanji like written on the album.
You should sneak into Russia when you're up there.
Yeah, dude, that'd be dope. I'm good at sneaking into communist countries. Yeah, I should try it. I'll do it.
Yeah,
I'll do
I
it
mean,
for you.
what? There's no landmines.
Do you want
in
to film an
Oahu.
episode?
Dude, I was actually up in Wakana, and I wanted to go to Russia, but the visa takes like at least a month. It's like 1 to 3 months, and you have to like make an appointment at the fucking embassy.
Okay.
And a friend of mine years back told me that you actually had to get. This was years ago, but he said as an American you have to get an HIV test before you go to Russia.
Interesting.
I think just as an extra hurdle to make sure like you're not gonna fucking come in here. You know what I mean? Like.
Damn.
So yeah, not the friendliest countries, obviously, but I mean, it would be really cool to go. You can go. You know what I'm saying? There's those Sakhalin Islands.
As long as you don't bring any marijuana, right? Like, what's her face?
Brittany Griner. Or
Yeah,
something?
yeah. When is she still locked up? Or they let
No,
her
no,
out?
I think they did like a no.
They did an exchange?
No, Biden did like a prison exchange.
Yeah, an exchange.
where he exchanged this like highly dangerous arms dealer for like a girl that had weed.
Yeah, that's. We love that American politics.
So progressive.
Yeah, no, man. I'm still holding out on paying my student loans because
Yeah?
our buddy Biden just announced another round of forgiven
We'll
student
see about
loans.
that. I don't know what this.
And like honestly, at this point, I haven't paid much back on what I owe, and I'm like, you know what? I think if I just hold out long enough, like I'm gonna fall within one of these little realms of people that he forgives the loans towards.
Oh, like
'Cause
the
elections
interest will build up, and then
Yeah,
like
the election season's coming up, and I think he's slowly announcing more and more. So it's like I'm gonna hold off a little bit before I, fork out the dough, and just maybe I get forgiven.
interesting.
Who
And then maybe
knows?
Trump will up the ante and be like, "Look, fucking, I'll pay you for all your." You know what I mean? Like
I'll buy your debt. Yeah.
the competition will get the best of him, and he'll be like, "Yeah,
Who's got the best offer?
yeah,
The art of the deal.
exactly."
Who's gonna win it? I don't know.
Pay with your votes.
Yeah, man. Yeah, election year. It's yeah, maybe. Hopefully, I'll settle on I'll use that as my inspiration for finding the next chapter by
Yeah,
then, so
exactly.
I don't have to.
Dude, we were in DC.
Oh,
We were in
lovely.
DC, and election season was coming up, and I was like, "Get the fuck out of here! About the
Nice.
January 6th, this bitch all over again."
Dude. Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that just like I feel like isn't talked about much anymore, but just the fact that we had like a pretty much an armed rebellion in our nation's capital in like modern
Hey, it's our
days.
building, bro. That's our building, dude.
Yeah.
That belongs to us.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Nancy Pelosi belongs to me.
Yeah. And people wonder
Fucking
why I
hell.
don't really want to live in the U.S. at
Shit's
the moment.
embarrassing, dude. God damn. Anyways.
Yeah. Anyway, let's not talk about depressing things.
You're in fucking. I want to ask you about like what's the hardest day you've had on the bike? Like where you're like, fuck this. I want to like throw in the towel. Like you crash or it's raining or.
Hardest day, hardest moment.
Because I mean, the rain would suck major balls. That was My hardest day on the motorcycle was I was going from Ukraine, and Putin just announced like, "Oh, we're gonna like mobilize more Russian troops, and we may nuke you guys." Like, what's good, you know what I mean? And then
And
the
you're
next
there.
day I was fucking out, and I started driving to the Moldovan border, but from Kyiv it took like 2 full days on the bike, and by the time I got to the border, like I crossed over and I was in Moldova at like 2:30 in the morning, and there's like no street lights, and it's an unpaved road, and like I have a fucking street bike, and like my bike, like if I if I turned it off, like it might not start. It was having issues, and
Oh,
like
God.
the battery was fucked up, and I was in the middle of nowhere, and just like really fucking scared.
Yeah.
Really scared. I saw a dead kitten on the side of the road. It was so cold.
No. Oh no.
And then I got like a latte, and I'm really sensitive with caffeine, as you can see. I had half a cup, and I'm fucking geeked.
Yeah.
But I had a latte at like 9 p.m. just because I was like, I just need some joy in my life right now.
Yeah.
Like I need some warm liquid, and like I ended up getting to a fucking hotel in Moldova at like 3:30 in the morning, and I just banged on the hotel. Like I didn't make a booking, obviously. I was just banging on this door, like hopefully someone lets me in, and this woman just comes up and just lets me in, stays for free. I pay the next day.
Wow.
Like shit was nuts, and I was like, all right, I think the fun's over. The fun is far from over. Like,
You know what? I think that I think the main theme with like probably and this just kind of gets back to that like dislike of cycling in the rain. I think that most of the toughest times have been like physically toughest times have just been like dealing with the rain
yeah,
and just like the safety aspect of it, being uncomfortable, chafing, everything that goes along with like cycling in the rain.
yeah.
I think if you look at something like maybe most scared kind of thing that I've been, I know I hinted at this earlier about the detainment, but I think I think it's a good time to talk about that.
Yeah.
So, rewind maybe 2 weeks, and I'm cycling. It's kind of on the north coast. Like if you go directly above Kyoto, the biggest lake in Japan is right there, Lake Biwa. Go north. There's a town called Suruga. I believe I'm saying that correct. And the coastal route kind of along, I guess it's called the Chubu part of Japan. I followed that coastal route for probably, I don't know, 1,000 kilometers up that kind of west coast along the Sea of Japan.
Okay.
So the first day that I'm kind of making my way to this coastal route, I am always, I'm always on the side of the road, right? Always kind of, seeing things that have fallen off of trucks, like maybe there's a tool or like a flashlight or, all the time there's something on the road. Like every day I'll pass something that's like, interesting. Do I need that? No, I don't need a ratchet. Like I'll leave that tool laying there. But I was cycling this day and I noticed something like white up on the kind of shoulder ahead of me. And I was like, what is that? And I got up to it and it was a small number plate. And I was like, that's really cool. Like, honestly, like, I think that would be something awesome to have in my little like motorcycle shop, like
Good souvenir.
that's super cool. So I got it and I was looking at it and it ended up being on like this like kind of a little like plate mount, I guess you could say, and it had a Harley Davidson written on it. I was
No
like, oh,
way.
how cool. How cool is this?
It's like made for you.
Yeah, and it was like all scratched up and it was like it had an expiration date of like 2021 on it. And I was like, all right, I guess this was like maybe trash that fell off of like kind of like a scrap metal truck or something. And I was like, this is cool. Like, this is a cool souvenir. Like, I'm going to keep
sick.
this. So I stuck it on the little back. I've got like a little tail pack on my bike. So I stuck it under my shoes, stuck it on the tail pack. Cycled that night. I sent a picture to my brother. I was like, look at this. How cool is this? I finally found something really cool on the side of the road.
Like fell from heaven.
He
for
constantly asks me, like, my brother is like totally not a traveler, but he's been the one that constantly asks me, like, oh, dude, what's been interesting? You found anything cool? Like, da-da-da-da-da.
you. Yeah.
And so, I thought it was cool. Like, this will be a cool souvenir. It's going to suck to carry it around for a couple weeks, but whatever. So, camped that night. The next day, I got up super early and got like 60, 70 kilometers done like by noon. And I was like, I'm going to stop at this like rest area and get a nice little break. So go
And
in.
the tag is like displayed on the back of your bike. It's
Yeah,
like
it's just sitting on the back. I'm not trying to hide it.
Right.
I thought like in my mind, I was like, maybe if I pass the police station, I'll just ask if like, do I need to turn this in? Like, what's the deal with this?
really?
Like,
Were you really gonna ask?
I was thinking about it.
Okay.
Okay. But I didn't really know because I mean, like, I don't know. In the U.S., like, if you just find something on the side of the road, like, it's kind of yours now.
It's yours,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? So little did I know I was about to learn a valuable lesson. Because I came back outside from eating my lunch and I was like, all right, I'm just going to check on the bike. I left it like sitting out in front of the rest area. And I went and there was a Family Mart there. So I went in and found a snack and I was like, all right, I need some sugar. So oddly enough, I got, the good old American classic Coca-Cola.
Hell yeah.
And some chocolate covered potato chips. I was like, you don't see this every day.
That sounds
but
good.
They were fucking delicious.
Wow.
So anyway, sitting outside, enjoying my snack. And like I saw this guy like kind of getting close to my bike and he was like on his phone and I was kind of, like probably like 30 or 40 feet away just sitting at this picnic table. And I was kind of like scoping him out like, is he just like into bikes and like kind of like, oh, this is a dope setup and like calling somebody like, you should do this to your bike. And I didn't really think much of like who he could have been calling.
Yeah.
So maybe 3 minutes goes by, and then all of a sudden I see Deputy Dog of the Ishikawa Prefectural Police Force kind of like jostling around the corner, like looking like he's looking for like a murderer. So a guy in full police uniform comes up, he's looking around. I was like, oh, what's he looking for? Like I'm seeing some action here.
Yeah.
And
Real
then
life
he's
cops.
like, he's like looking around, and I was like, and then he sees me, and he like locks on me, and I was like, oh fuck!
Like I'm.
I was
criminal.
like, did I see the crime? I was thinking about like what crimes did I see recently, and and I was like, remember, what crimes did you see?
There's so many crimes.
And he comes up to me,
encyclopedia of crimes.
yeah, and he comes up to me, and he's like, number plate, and I was like, number, and I was like, oh, it's like, yeah, I have a number plate, I found it, and so I pull it off the bike and show it to him, and he's like, oh. And like just starts asking me like my name, asked to see my passport, and I was like, why am I being asked all these questions? And at that time I was like, 2 more cops showed up. So there was now like 1 full uniformed cop, 2 plainclothes detectives. And at that point I was like,
detectives.
yeah, I was like, all right, something's going on. So I called my girlfriend. I was like, look, I need you to help me. I was like, just listen to me really carefully. There's cops here. They're asking me questions. They're asking for all these details. It seems kind of serious. Like, can you help me out? And so she's like, yeah. So she's like talking to him in Japanese. And so while she's on the phone with him, they're sitting there asking me for information, blah, 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 blah. And like trying, like nobody really spoke English. So more people keep coming. 3 more guys came up.
More cops.
Yeah, more cops. So at that point, there were 6 people there. And
Of course, you need 6 cops to solve this problem.
Yeah,
I mean,
like they were taking pictures of my bike. They were taking pictures of the number plate. The guy comes with like a one of those like evidence bags,
what?
and like puts the number plate in that. And then all these guys are like kind of like huddled around me. So at one point there were 13. So I think it was like 6 or 7 like regular uniformed police and like 6 or 7 detectives. At one point there were 13 police. They rolled up in a van, like a black unmarked van, in front of this rest area, and like that was when the rest of the crew hopped out.
Wow.
So they were just asking me questions like, why do you have the number plate? And I was like, I found it on the side of the road. And they were like, does this number plate belong to you? And it was just like, seemed like they were like trying to ask me the same question. I was like, I found a number plate on the side of the road. I have it here. If I was trying to hide it, I'd probably put it in one of the 5 bags on my bike. I don't know. And so they were persistent, and they were like, well, we need to make an official statement, and it'll be much easier if we do this at the police station. And I was like,
fuck that, dude.
I was like,
Fuck
nah,
that.
I don't know if I want to do this. And I was like, gonna be like, okay, let me just be easy to get along with. And then the rebel in me is like, nah, fuck this, I'm not going anywhere. And I told my girlfriend, I was like, no, tell them that we can do this right here, or we cannot do it at all. And so
What did she have to say to that? Was she like, no, you should do what they say?
yeah,
type shit,
she
or...
was like, I think in the Japanese way of like, let's be super polite.
Yeah.
And then telling me like, look, police in Japan are not like police in America. They're not trying to like fuck you over. They're not trying to pull any shit on you. They're not going to fucking pull a gun and shoot you. Like, you don't have to worry about that here. They're not out for you like they would be like in the U.S.
Right, but you were super defensive right away. You're like, I've seen this before. Like,
yeah. And I just had my guard up. Like, no, you're not going to, like, you're not pushing me around. Like, I didn't do anything wrong, blah, 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 in my mind. So anyway.
Am I being arrested or am I free to go?
Yeah, exactly. I know my goddamn rights. And so Yeah, I finally at the point like I could see that like they just had a hard on for this fucking like to do this in their way and like follow their procedure.
13 cops is insane.
Yeah,
for
man,
this
it was a
small little infraction.
Yeah, and I even made like maybe the joke didn't translate through Google Translate, but I remember translating this area must be very safe to consider 13 cops are responding to this level of incident, and I meant it in a very like sarcastic way.
Right.
And the guy's like, yes, very safe. And I was like, okay, you missed the sarcasm in my joke, but
no.
good to know it is
I
really
don't think it
safe.
translates, man.
And good to know that yeah, but I was kind of mad at the time, and I was like, I just want to be a little bit of a dick, but like I don't know if the sarcasm's going to translate, but if it doesn't, then you know maybe I'll be okay. But
yeah. Probably
yeah,
felt
so-
good to like give him a little jab too.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. And
do you
there
guys have nothing better
and you know
to
what?
do?
The one
Like,
guy that was like kind of like leading the charge, he was like he kind of was giving me like some like a little bit of like kind of this like organized crime kind of vibe because he had like this big like bandage covering up a tattoo that you could see on his arm.
What?
Like a like I guess one of those like kind of tattoo cover patches that people wear like to the onsen,
Yeah, just a big Band-Aid.
and was wearing like a very flashy Rolex
Interesting.
as a police officer, and I was like,
Interesting.
what's going on here? I was just kind of trying to pay attention to details, and I was
you
like,
start
this is the
questioning
guy.
him. You're like, hey,
Yeah,
who the
what's
fuck are
going
you?
on? Yeah, what
Yeah.
Do you, you're a public servant. Why do you
Yeah.
have?
Let's see some ID.
Let me see the Rolex there, bud. What's the tattoo of?
Yeah.
Who do you belong to? Let me see your fingers. You know.
Yeah. Do you got all of them? Or...
Yeah, exactly. You missing a pinky for some reason. And so finally I was like, you know what? These guys aren't letting their guard down. They're not going to let this go. So they said, we'll take you to the police station. It's very close. I said, okay, let's do this. So got in the van, and one of the detectives sat in the back with me and is like telling me messages on Google Translate. And he was like, do not be scared. And I was like,
Thanks.
okay, thank you. That's very reassuring sitting in the back of a police van in a foreign country where none of the people around me speak English. Thank you so much for the
Oh,
reassurance.
don't be scared. Oh, okay. I didn't know.
And then I think his next message was, do not worry, the charges will not be serious. And I was like, what the fuck?
Charges?
I was like, and at that point I was like charges? I didn't know about charges. Charges. And so anyway, the quick police station right by ends up being a 30-minute drive into like, I don't know what town it was, but it's Ishikawa province.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, go into the police station. You know, they all kind of escort me in. We go into like kind of like, you know, the classic interrogation room where they've got the, you know, the ashtray with the cigarettes and why'd you do it? You know what I mean?
You get one phone call, buddy.
Yeah. So anyway, they tell me that they want to ask me some questions. They provide an interpreter. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'm going to be nice. I'm going to make this go as smooth as possible, get this over quickly so I can kind of get back and finish my day and get to the campsite I need to be in tonight.
Yeah.
Let's just make this quick.
Yeah.
So
Were you shitting your pants at this point?
at that point I wasn't, because I just like, in my eyes, I was like, I found something. I put it on my bike. I didn't steal anything. I have no reason to steal it. I have, you know, like I have absolutely no motive to steal this thing. Like at what point did I do wrong? So I was
Watch it
convinced
belong
of
to
that.
like a stolen car or something.
So
Like a missing person
little did I know.
tag.
What they explained to me, like first off, was in that prefecture, they've had a huge issue lately with tags getting stolen off of motorcycles specifically. So that was what sparked their interest and the reason that they needed a statement and needed to know why I was in possession of a number plate that was not mine. And so
That's why the detectives were there then.
yeah,
They're like trying to solve an active case.
yeah,
Like,
yep. And they were like, "We got the guy. We've got him. He's
Yeah.
fucking American. He's
And
wearing
he's fucking
spandex.
white."
Yeah, he's wearing spandex." And so anyway, they provide the interpreter to me, and the interpreter has like the most just like very. It sounds like he just like memorized the English textbook, and just like like had probably never done many practice conversations, but knew the words he was looking for.
oh, trust me, I used to teach English here. Like if they take like business English classes, they're woefully unprepared for
Yep.
real conversations.
Yep, and that was the police department provided interpreter that they gave to me. So anyway, they start asking, the main detective starts asking questions. And he was like, can you tell us where you were cycling, where you were going? And just, I guess, trying to fact check, make sure everything lined up with what I was saying.
Yeah.
And I showed him like where I found it on the map, XYZ. And just asked me more of a series of questions. And I showed him, I was like, yeah, I think that it looks like something maybe fell off a vehicle. I was like, you can see on the plate, it's got scratches all over it. It probably fell off of a motorcycle or vehicle and was on the side of the road. That's how I happened upon it. I was cycling. It was here close to the line, like drew a diagram of how it was laying and like everything, man.
Wow.
They went into like so much detail. And obviously just, I imagine just knowing what I know about Japan, like there's just so much procedure involved of what they need to ask and exactly what they need to have and provide. So essentially all this was getting to, them kind of determining whether a crime was committed.
What would the crime be? Like you stealing it actively off of a motorcycle and then...
So that's kind of what they said that they could tell by, the fact I was a traveler or a foreigner, that I likely wasn't like, up to mischief and like theft and that sort of thing. But they just needed to ask the questions to make sure, is kind of how they phrased it. But as they were like asking questions, like there was some certain things that they said that I was like not super comfortable with. And I asked them if I would be charged or fined. And like, I didn't really like the way that they answered. They weren't really like definitive about it.
Yeah.
And at that point I was like, I'd really like to talk to an attorney. Like they wanted me to fill out a piece of paperwork that was all in Japanese. I can't read any Japanese.
Yeah.
And, I was basing it on the translation of my police department provided interpreter.
Was your girlfriend on the phone? Did they let you talk to her? Because
they wouldn't let me talk to any third party during the actual.
So it was like a full-on interrogation.
Yeah, it's like a full-on interrogation.
Damn, were you ripping cigs in the room?
No, I wasn't.
Were they?
I should have made like requests. Being
Yeah.
Like, can I get a egg salad sandwich from 7-Eleven?
Oh my goddamn cigarettes.
And a milk tea and some Lucky Strikes.
Yeah. I'll talk if you give me some Lucky Strikes.
Yeah. They start bringing in things. Like, let's get them to talk, boys.
Yeah.
And so anyway, after I was like, you know what, like I don't feel comfortable like signing this. They wanted me to sign this document that was basically like forfeiting lost property, and another document that was like
forfeiting lost property, like you're giving it back to them. What does that mean?
Yeah. That's kind of, it was, I forgot exactly the terminology that it kind of translated to, but it was like the forfeiture of a lost asset or something like that. But what they kind of explained to me was that it was the common form that they had filled out when somebody turned in something lost.
Oh, so they're trying to get you out of this whole predicament. Like...
Yeah. And I think that like at that point I was just like, I don't want to sign anything and fingerprint things that like I just don't know exactly what they say, you know? And like they wouldn't let me Google Translate. They made, everything be, kind of translated to me by the interpreter, and he had to tell me what it meant, and I was like, I don't know if I trust this.
Yeah,
and at that point I was like,
police department, right?
And at that point I was like, I'd like to figure out how to talk to an attorney. I'd like to call my girlfriend, see what we can figure out. They're like, no, you can't call any third person. You can't call an attorney.
Or what? You're
talking to us now. They said if you don't want to comply with our investigation, we are looking at pursuing charges of embezzlement of lost property against you.
So they fully were like twisting your arm, like sign this shit right now.
Yeah, they wanted to. But what they explained to me is like by signing this document, it wasn't any admission of guilt. It wasn't anything like that. It was just the piece of paper that you would fill out if you like found a cell phone or something like that.
So it sounds like if they were telling the truth, they were really trying to like look out for your best interest. Like, oh, he didn't steal it. He was returning lost property.
They completely were. And I think that my maybe just built-in like distrust of police just was like red flag. Like, they're trying to get me to admit something and then gonna throw me in the slammer. And I've heard like all kinds of stories about people getting arrested here, and like the rights are just different. That you can be detained for like 28 days with no cause.
Fuck that,
here.
Dude.
So
damn, bro. Almost ended up in a Japanese prison.
But it was, you know what, it was wild. I think the lesson that it gave me though is like just generally trust the trust the nature of people here. I think that they didn't have any bad intentions. They just wanted to understand why I had this thing. And then also the, kind of a cultural thing. If you find a license plate in the U.S., it's like, oh, that'd be cool in the man cave.
Yeah.
But here, it's something completely. It's just
especially in that situation. I mean, like, I had a similar thing where I was like speeding in southern Arizona way back in the day, and I got pulled over, and it was like a cop, and then he called backup, and I was like, "What the fuck's going on?" And he like asked me some questions, and he's like, "You didn't like." You're not involved in any bank robberies, are you? And I was like, what? It's like, you match a description for like someone that, so I mean, you could be doing something benign, but you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yep.
And you get roped into like,
man, it was wild to me. And I think that for the couple of days after, I was just like kind of replaying it in my head. And like, it was one of those things that was like, okay, like I get that what I did maybe, and I say what I did, I say it like I committed some kind of crime, but it's like, I found something on the side of the road and just like, stashed it away for a souvenir.
Yeah.
Whereas, in the US that would be completely normal. Whereas, here I get now that there's like a lot of laws around like number plates and like having that, because I battled with it. I was like, okay, am I just completely missing the point here that I like did something completely bad and wrong and I'm just like not accepting it? But then I was like, you know what? I think it's just one of those like weird cultural mix-up type of things where whereas it would just be viewed in most of the world as like not really a serious thing, and then because it happened to be at this time where they've had these thefts, XYZ, it just like kind of all compiled. But it was terrifying, man. It was like moments playing by in my mind, like I've like saved up money to take some time off and kind of explore life, explore myself, and here goes all of that money, like paying to get out of a Japanese jail, and then like, what the
attorneys
fuck? And then girlfriend's family is gonna know I'm like a criminal, I'm an international bad boy now. And I was like thinking like episode of Locked Up Abroad.
That's pretty sick.
But like number plate, I mean, it's got to be something interesting, like like.
You can milk it. Coke podcast deal, like some fucking sell some merch, you could milk it.
Yeah, I guess so.
That'd be sick.
I think the funny thing was this, man, like the last kind of interaction was like the funniest, and it just made me realize like how how solid Japanese people are, because they, in the US, if that would have happened, they would have like dumped you outside the police station, like get lost, get out of here. I'm gonna drink some more water.
They probably wouldn't have even brought you in though.
They would have been like maybe give the number plate back.
Yeah.
Then if it was like a stolen car, they might question you or something.
Yeah. But I just think in Japan, like there's more of a, because like you could leave your wallet in a bathroom and no one's gonna take it type shit. Whereas like in the US, be like, oh, this is mine now. I think it's kind of the same thing where like they see something on the ground that's not theirs, they just don't take it.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And you know what's really funny is that is probably the thing that my girlfriend gets mad at me the most about. Because I always find stuff, like whether it's like I'm, fishing and I find like a lure laying, or if I'm riding a bike and I find a number plate or whatever it is, like I always find stuff. And my girlfriend is always like, leave that. It's not yours. I'm like, this is like a $100 XYZ. Why would I not take it?
Yeah.
And now it makes me realize like, okay, this is like something that's like baked in culture of like, it's not yours. Do not touch it.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe I'm thinking like more advantageous, like, ooh, I found something. This can benefit me, XYZ.
It does kind of make you feel like trash. You're like, damn, is my country like, are we like...
Yeah, are my morals that off?
Yeah, do we suck?
Yeah.
Because like they're kind of crushing it in that respect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, just like the moral fortitude of everyone and how everybody follows this like moral code. It's like...
Yeah. And then you go back to the US and you'll have like reverse culture shock where like... You're like, oh, these people fucking suck. They stink. They're talking loud. Like their shoes it's all dirty.
Wearing shoes in the restaurant.
Yeah, animals. Fucking animals, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the Japanese people are really stand-up folks. But I mean, that is, it's pretty ridiculous how like 13 cops found it appropriate to like drop everything they're doing. And like, well, I guess, I mean, if they don't have anything better to do, like, I can't really blame them. But it seems
like it. I mean, I reckon it just makes me think that it seems like the Japanese people are definitely, that stuff like that probably doesn't happen very often. So they're probably all like, guys, our yearly crime has been committed. I think
Yeah.
it probably played across the like loudspeaker in the police station.
Right.
And then when I came in the
All
police
hands on
station,
deck.
like everybody that was sitting on the floor like looked at me like, "We got him, boys. We got him." You know, it's like I felt like you know like the what are the like the old what's the Cassidy, like Butch Cassidy or whatever, the like old like bad boys from the Wild West, like they
Right.
finally got him, boys, you know.
Yeah. The bounty posters up in the jail.
Exactly. Like you see the slow motion video in the movies, like walking in handcuffs, kind of glaring around at the cops, and like one guy's like smoking a cigarette there in the side. Like I felt like that moment, but it was less dramatic, if you can imagine. Like
The Yakuza cop is like, we have a scapegoat for all the crime I've personally been committing.
yeah, exactly. But in reality, it was like me walking through and like kind of smiling at the detectives and then being all respectful and like bowing at me. You know what I mean? It wasn't any of like the smoke and slow mo. Like none of that actually happened.
I respect that you smiled and you're trying
And I was
to,
in
like,
spandex. Don't forget that. Don't forget that.
That's funny. Oh my god! They're like, who the fuck is this fairy coming in here? Like,
Yeah, no.
I thought Americans were cool.
No, man, just like this dude with a fucking mustache and like spandex, dude.
And the earrings, they for sure thought you were gay.
Yeah.
1000% they thought you were gay.
Oh no, for sure. They're like, we're gonna get this guy in some cells and do some weird shit. Like, yeah, this is happening.
Do people, because people will confuse me for gay. Like, actually, I had a mix up in Vietnam where, long story.
Southeast Asian mix-ups. Tell us about it.
Long story, but I just finished the Ha Shang Loop. I like had the flu. I was super just fucking done. I just crashed my bike like 2 days before.
Yeah.
Just wanted to get a hotel and lay down. I get off the bus and I'm like shopping for a hotel in person. And I like to see the place and kind of like feel it out and see, you know, is this worth my money? Can I negotiate a cheaper price? Whatever. And so like I walk into this hotel, this guy's showing me around, and he like, you know, instead of like a nice new made bed, like empty room, there's like a guy in the room. It's a mess. It's like hot in there. It smells like sex.
Oh,
And he like grabs me by the arm and like pulls me in. And I like fucking like, what the fuck are you doing? And I like got out and I like start walking. I'm filming the whole thing, by the way. Like the whole thing's on film.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, I want to see it.
Yeah, I'll show you later.
gotta link it to me.
Yeah. But, and he's like, oh, you don't want whatever. I don't speak Vietnamese, whatever. And so he's just making all these noises, these foreign tongues. I'm just like, I don't know what's happening. I'm narrating like on camera. I'm like,
And this is where?
Vietnam, Hanoi.
In Hanoi.
Hanoi, yeah. And that's why he said, oh, I had a great time in Hanoi. And I was like, I had a terrible time in Hanoi.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm walking away narrating the whole thing. And I'm like, man, you know, this looks really bad. It's probably not as bad as it is. There's probably something getting lost in translation. And as I'm saying that, he pulls out a fucking wad of cash. And then he goes,
I think I've seen your video. I didn't realize
Really?
it was yours. I think I've seen this.
had a
like,
mullet?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's you.
Yeah.
I literally watched this and thought about that. I was like, wow, I never had any. That's wild. Wow, this is a full circle moment.
Yeah, that's funny.
Because I was like, I never had anything like that in Vietnam happen. I was like, where's this hotel at?
No, yeah, I know the name. It's like non-NGHI. Like,
Yeah, I remember seeing that, like, Nyani. Like,
Yeah,
there's like
yeah.
I think it means like guest house.
That's
and-
hilarious.
yeah. That was you.
Oh, it was horrifying.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I don't even know where was I going with that?
Yeah.
The trauma, just a trauma rabbit hole. I've just gone fully down it, but yeah, that was pretty bad. That was a bad time. So when you're like,
That's
oh,
so
I had a great time in
interesting.
Hanoi, I was like, nah.
Yeah, I think mine was wildly different. Like a fake gay marriage, cheap motorbikes.
Yours were like fun, like PG, like.
Some of them were. You know? There's some things in there that we can talk about off camera. But,
Okay, nice. Oh, but I was gonna say like, because we have almost the same like aesthetic, like fucking mustache, earring, like the Freddie Mercury. And my theory is like, oh, I think he thought I was just gay. Like, I think he was legitimately confused. Like, oh, you do not want a blowjob looking like that? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like,
you look like a guy who wants to get his dick sucked for sure.
Like, I am great at blowjobs. Oh, like, and he had like a fucking a billion dong or whatever the fuck it's called, like a wad of cash.
He had a lot of dong.
Bro, yeah, and he
I
wanted
hear
one
that's
more.
not very common finding
one
the
more.
Vietnamese men with a lot of dong. Maybe that's why they wanted you.
No, I think he fully like wanted a threesome. Like, because it was one guy on the bed, him that pulled me in, and then me, my nubile gay tourist, dong.
That's bizarre. So what happened when the camera went off? Did you go in and get your money's worth?
No, I fucking got
Wait,
on.
did they want to pay you?
I don't know. I mean, I titled the video like something human trafficking in Vietnam because I felt like they wanted me to blow that dude.
Oh,
But
interesting.
truly, they would have been down for whatever. I know in my heart they would be down for whatever.
Yeah,
If I was like,
there was about to be some gay shit going on.
yeah, like I'll suck you, you suck me, we suck each other. Like,
And then we go get pho after.
yeah, honestly, wash it down with some pho. Wow. Yeah.
Wow,
Guzz some cum,
blowjobs
man.
and pho. Can
Yeah.
you name that episode? This episode, blowjobs and pho.
But you don't have
funny,
any. People don't think you're gay because maybe it's just my look. Maybe I am gay secretly. I don't
Yeah,
know. Like,
I don't know, man. Is this the start to a weird casting couch
We're in
video?
my hotel room.
Yeah, we are in his hotel room. It happens to me all the time because I'm always just like loud and obnoxious and like I don't know. I've always been the person that like if somebody thinks that I'm XYZ, I never give a fuck. I'm like, yeah, I act however I want to act and
Yeah.
joke about whatever I want to joke about and then like just open about everything all the time. So yeah, happens quite often. It hasn't happened here. But
no,
yeah.
well, being gay in Japan is like super
Yeah.
hush hush. Like,
And I
don't think
realized,
you're
like-
ever gonna get that.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen like even anyone here that or like gay bars or anybody that I could tell was like openly like
Yeah.
gay or like
Never got pulled into a hotel room.
no.
No, that's weird.
No.
It's fucking weird, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Hasn't happened yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
We're in here though. I pulled you in here.
That's wild, man. That's so crazy. How long ago was this?
Like a year, about a year ago. Yeah.
That's fucking crazy. I wonder if anybody's gone back and been like, I'm gonna go do this.
What's
deed.
good with the sucky? Like,
I'm trying to make some money here.
yeah. But anyways, so you're fucking. Let's bring it back. Bring it back here. Your trip. Any other crazy stories? Like you said, you got attacked by a bear or some shit.
No,
or?
not a bear. I'm a tombi. You know what tombi is, yeah?
No.
Like the Japanese, I think the technical, they call them a tombi in Japanese, but I think the bird is called a black kite. They're big. I think they've got a, like probably like 3-4 foot wingspan. So they're like a big
It's
hawk.
like a raven.
Nope. It looks like a hawk. They're like kind of like dark brown, but they're like raptors. They're like birds of prey.
Oh,
so
okay, yeah.
big talons. And I found out there's a specific thing that they do where they'll like they'll snatch food. They're famous for snatching food. So the day that I found the number plate, as I got off the train and put my bike together and started the trip, I was like, the first thing I did is I cycled like a kilometer and went to a Family Mart, and they had that beautiful egg salad sandwich, and I was like, I gotta have one.
Yeah.
So I went outside, I smashed the first triangle, and then I was going to the mouth with the second triangle. I bit into it, and as I bit into it, it felt like somebody just knocked me the fuck out.
What?
And just like smacked me in the face, and I was like, what the fuck? And I turned to the side, and I kind of thought I was going to look over and see some like teenager like, I just hit you in the face with a rock.
Oh god.
But I kind of turned my head, and as I did this, I looked up, and there was like a big fucking bird flying off. And I saw it fly off, and I was like, oh, this fucking thing just tried to like snatch this sandwich out of my hand and like smacked me in the face. So I had a scratch down my cheek, had egg salad exploded, like an egg salad cum shot all over my face. And then these little like old ladies like walked up there like, and then yeah, that's become one of my favorite things.
It's hilarious.
And I just love it. It can be like you can say anything like, I love to eat eggs. And the
yeah.
and like the Japanese TV shows when they rip the A's. I love them.
You can say the most benign thing, like, I love Japan. Like,
Yeah, and it's like, there's part of it that like kind of rubs me wrong because it's like, don't act overly interested in what I said. It wasn't that cool.
but part of it is like, yeah, I am pretty fucking profound. I do say, oh no.
But yeah, there's me with the
Blood.
But yeah,
That's pretty funny though. You can tell in the photo, you can like sense the humor. You're like, this is kind of funny.
Yeah,
Like,
it was funny after it happened.
yeah.
And then the crazy thing is, you'd think, I told you about me just being dumb and having to learn lessons the hard way.
yeah.
Probably a week later, I had this beautiful tuna mayo onigiri, was just like smashing that down outside of a 7-Eleven. And it just kind of clipped my arm this time, but another tombi came down and swooped at the food. So you'd think I'd learned my lesson about eating food outside of 7-Elevens, but I think that these birds are obviously, really smart, and they know that people are going to be coming out and eating outside the 7-Eleven.
Yeah, yeah.
And then also there was a guy that had took some gyoza from this street food restaurant, And I was walking. I saw like randomly a Harley Davidson sitting in the window of this shop that was like down the street from.
So you stole the license plate?
Yeah, that's where I got the license plate.
Nice.
So this all comes full circle.
We got it on tape.
But no, I saw the. Damn it, Officer Minamata, you are creative. God damn it, this was all a ruse.
That's a wrap.
Yeah. Come out, boys. Come out, boys. But yeah, I saw the bird like circling this guy, and he had like some gyoza in his hand, like walking down the sidewalk all nonchalant. And I was like, "Tommy," and he's like, "Eh." So, yeah, man, 2 animal attacks,
hell, man.
1 arrest, and
Any notable crashes?
Don't mention that.
No.
Don't you mention that. Nope.
Okay, hey, you're pretty good. 40 days in and no crashes.
But
Well,
yeah.
dude, you've done something pretty sweet. I mean, 40 days, all of Japan. What's been like your favorite region?
I think there's been a couple. Kyushu was definitely interesting. It just felt like a little more untouched than the rest of Japan. So some of the cities along that kind of first stretch that I did, there was just a lot of really good scenery. And there was this one. There's just been a couple of times that I've kind of felt like I'm in Narnia. Like, where the fuck am I? Just like, is this real? And there was this one little stretch in Kyushu right before a town called just north of Minamata. So like probably 20, 30 kilometers north. There was this little seaside house with like all these like bonsai trees around it. And like this really cool, like overgrown, mossy, like concrete facade. Like it was just like really beautiful. And these like little tiny roads like snaking along the railroad track, and just this big like kind of cypress like forest that I had to cycle through. That was really cool. But it's been a lot of like there's been some like similarity like in the route, just in terms of like, you know, a seaside route, it can only change so much.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of different like type of landscape, and like a lot of different like prevalent rock that you'll see. Like there's some sandstone here, obviously some like volcanic, you know, stuff in certain areas. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's been interesting just to see the variance, and like just some of the forms that you see in nature, and like the shape of the mountains, and like we were talking about earlier, it's just some really unique visuals here. So
Well,
It's,
be careful up in Hokkaido, man. The wind on the coast, on the north coast of Japan, is fucking brutal, dude.
Yeah.
It's really, really bad.
yeah, I'm still trying to. I think the 2 things I'm worried about are the wind, because like cycling in a headwind is like it's a soul sucker. Like it's the toughest thing. And then also the bears. There's a bear right here on the wall of the hotel room, and
But you'll be on the road next to cars and shit. I mean, are you specifically taking the shortest route, or are you taking like the scenic route with
yeah,
like
I'm just
mountain
worried about the
roads
camping aspect of things. Like,
yeah.
So and
Maybe
then
just stay in guest house. You only got 4 days left, man. Like,
yeah, that's what I was also thinking. Is
Yeah.
like maybe I just don't risk it, because actually like right now is the most dangerous time of the year.
Oh, because they're waking up from hibernation and shit.
Well, it's because the mothers are birthing cubs right now. So they've got young cubs, and not even like kind of grown cubs that could fend, and they're not separating. They've got like weaning, like breastfeeding cubs on them.
yeah, that wouldn't be camping, dude. Because there's lots of bear, and they're like grizzly bear adjacent. They're like the cousins
Yeah,
of grizzly.
they're
like,
not little
nasty.
bears. Yeah,
yeah, they're not
yeah.
just like little black bears.
Yeah,
in
and
North
they
Carolina.
attacked like 4 days ago. There was a tourist killed by a bear in Hokkaido.
What?
And-
Hiking or?
Well, here's the crazy thing: is when the forest rangers went, I think it was somebody hiking where they weren't supposed to be.
Oh, okay.
In like a, you know, imagine that, a blocked off area in Japan. But the bear tried to attack the forest rangers when they went in to get the body. So
Oh my
somebody
God.
said that apparently like the body is like hasn't been recovered yet.
No.
Yeah.
What? The bear's just like munching on it. Like, this is mine now. I'm territorial over this.
And this is all
kill
also
of mine.
something I heard. So this could be a fallacy.
Let's just go with
but
it. We just go
I
with
like
it
the
here.
sound of it.
Let's
I like
just
the
go
sound
with
of
it. Yeah.
There's a cannibal bear loose in Hokkaido.
A cocaine bear.
Yeah, kind of like that guy right there. He looks like he's doing something kind of dirty, doesn't he? Like he's
Yeah, he's got his tongue out. He's ready to eat some ass.
yeah, he's definitely like the angle of his head. You can see what he's up to. He's reaching for the booty.
Yeah. That's right. Well, yeah. Do you have anything else you want to share about the trip? Because I mean, you're done pretty much. So
Yeah.
any, like,
No, man, I'm
crazy
looking forward to the.
life lessons.
Yeah, man, just looking forward to the last few days. It's been nice to get a couple of days off and like some rest, and like, you know, actually not waking up with like sore legs, and you know, waking up in a tent and that sort of thing. It's kind of nice every once in a while.
You should go to like a hot spring town and just fucking post up with your girlfriend for like 3 days.
Yeah, I
Just
think that's
veg.
we've still got to figure out exactly what we're gonna do because like I looked at the transportation time to like get to Wakanai from like Tokyo and it's like ridiculous. It's like an 18-hour journey.
Like how?
Yeah, it's like well, just like the timing of trains.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think to get to Sapporo is like relatively easy. I think it's
5
like
or 6.
yeah,
6.
something like that.
Yeah.
But I think that just getting like the local trains to Wakanai gets a little tricky, and like getting from Tokyo to Sapporo and then to Wakanai in the same day, I think is the tricky part.
You could just fly to Sapporo and then take a train to Wakanai.
Yeah, I'm sure there's ways.
Would you
around
guys
it.
meet in Wakanai, or are you gonna meet in Sapporo?
I don't know.
Wakanai's pretty remote, man. Like, there's nothing really for you to do out there.
Not much to do.
Nah.
Yeah, probably.
Like, it's pretty fucking boring.
yeah, that's
actually.
kind of what I was thinking is like meeting Sapporo for a day because I think I'm actually not gonna go through Sapporo on my way up. I'm just gonna hug the coast.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
maybe just finish in Sapporo.
Okay.
And just like take a few days to enjoy and hot spring it up. And
Yeah. Well, you're going at kind of a treacherous time of year. It's late May. It's still spring. I mean, technically, it's spring there. Like, I was there 2 weeks ago, and it was fucking cold and windy and rainy, man. Like, it's
Yeah.
true, real fucking spring. It's not like
no.
no North Carolina, like,
yeah, that's what I've been looking at.
Sunny
Like, there's
spring.
definitely gonna be some like I don't know. Maybe I've converted to the European ways, but like it's gonna be down to like I don't know, like 10 degrees, like 50 degrees at night, and then up to like mid 60s during the day, and then there's a couple days in a row
with the
there it's
wind,
raining.
though, and, like, the rain, and that's tough, man.
Yeah, so it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a challenging like 5, 6, 7 days. I'm not exactly sure. It's like 560 kilometers, and usually I can do around 80 to 100 a day. So that could be anywhere from like 6 to 8 days.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I'd stay in some guest houses, man. The weather gets nasty up there. I mean, maybe I just got unlucky. I went to Rishiri, which is like off the coast of Wakanai. It's like I took a 2-hour ferry into the Sea of Japan, like northwest, and the weather was just brutal, dude. Like it was just like, I'm sure it's the same in Denmark. Like spring is just like I was in Ireland a couple of years ago, and spring it was hailing, and then like the next second it was like 75 and sunny, and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's kind of like that out there, man. So. just
yeah,
gotta
no,
be
it seems
careful.
like Hokkaido seems interesting, man. I feel like as soon as I came across on the ferry, and I know it's not even separated by that. There's just like something feels different in Hokkaido. I feel like, and I feel like it's like kind of the wild part of Japan.
It's like
you know?
Alaska.
Yeah, yeah. No, I feel like there's like this interesting thing here. Like, I don't know, I can kind of see like a difference in the way that people kind of dress, a little bit in the way they look. Like there's a different kombini here, which is like shocking, you know,
Yeah.
as the rest of the country has like the, 3 or 4.
Yeah, lower quality, but they still have one.
Yeah, it's kind of whack. I went there earlier.
I
It's
had their
like,
fried chicken. It was super dry.
yeah,
Kinda gross.
it's whack. It's way too. It's a little too local. Like I can see like maybe like some like oji-chans enjoying like the Seiko Mart, but kind of whack honestly. They do have good melon cream soda, which I love melon soda.
That sounds gross.
It's good. It's fucking delicious.
It's fucking nasty.
Yeah,
You're definitely getting diabetes.
I got diabetes.
God damn. Well, that's cool. You've been able to see, because I think when you're, I mean, at least for me on a motorcycle, like I was able to see the change slowly. So like it's neat.
Yeah.
It's really interesting that you've been able to do that on a bike, and yeah, it's pretty cool life accomplishment. So
Yeah, man, I'm excited to knock it out, and I think that just reflecting back on the times during the trip that I was like, because when I did the first part, and I got to Okayama, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go take a few days off, go see the girlfriend, and like wait out some bad weather.
Yeah.
I was like, I've done like half the country, like that's good enough for this trip, yeah. And I was like, no, fuck that. I brought my bike, all this shit here. I've got all this stuff prepared. I don't have anything else to do, and I want to do this. It's just easy. Sometimes it's just easy to give in to that voice in your head that's like, no, don't go do it. Don't wake up and go for a run.
Yeah.
Don't get up and edit that video. It's so easy to give into that. But if you think about what you really want, and you're like, no, I said to myself, like, I believe in this trip. I want to do it. I want the things that are going to come along with it, and the time and the space and the direction. It's like, no, this is important to me. This isn't just like, oh, I did most of it. No, fuck it. Like, how great is that story going to be when you tell it and you're like, yeah, well, I did like, 70% in Japan.
yeah,
It's like, no, I want to hear that you fucking finished it. You like didn't want to do it, but you fucking finished it. And
That's true.
just trying to make sure that I enjoy every day. Because, some days it gets monotonous. Cycling, camping, waking up, packing the shit, doing the same thing every day in a row. So, yeah, I do have to take these breaks and just make sure to get like a little bit of a reset.
Yeah. Plus, you can actually see where you are. Like, you've been in Hakodate what, 2 days, 3 days. So
Yeah.
you're able to, go on a tour if you want to, like talk to some locals. Like I think when you're just blasting through, like I met a dude the other day, Japanese guy that rode his bike from Tokyo to Morocco,
Oh shit.
all land borders.
It's a little bit farther than me.
6 months.
Whoa.
Dude, he was booking it, fucking flying. Like
That's moving.
I don't think you'd be able to really see much, honestly. Like, I mean, obviously you're seeing a lot,
Yeah.
technically, but are you really experiencing? Are you really like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I had a couple days ago, I rode for an afternoon with these two British guys, and they didn't have much time left in their trip, so they were doing these like super long, like 150-kilometer days,
Yeah.
and staying in guest house. They weren't camping. They were kind of, I think, lighter than me and just like moving more in each day.
Yeah.
But also I don't really have a backstop with time. So yeah, they were moving along quick, and I think that they left here like yesterday. And I was like, no, I'm taking the day off. I'm waiting out this rainy day. I'm going to hit it when I have at least a
Yeah.
couple of dry days to get, somewhere. If there's another rainy day, I have to wait out in a few days, and I'll do it. But, it was, again, that thing of like, all right, I'm doing this on my time. I'm not here to do it on somebody else's time. Like,
Yeah.
it's fun to cycle with a group. It's nice to have somebody to talk to. Like, the miles go by super quick, but not while I'm here,
Yeah.
Nice
one. Cool, dude. Well, thanks for sitting down and then talking shit about your trip. It's really interesting.
Man.
So
For sure, man. We've gotten to a lot of things. It's nice to dust off the stories, like even like talking about the Vietnamese wedding and going to that. Like haven't thought about that or talked about that in like a few years, and it's like kind of cool to dust off some of the
it's
memories
sick. Yeah,
sometimes.
so many stories. I mean, that's why I have the podcast, because like you meet legends in hostels where you're like, dude, I don't know if you have a platform to like tell people, but you're fucking sick and like you have a lot to share with the world, So yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Sweet.
It's been a pleasure talking.
Yeah, bro. Bye. Hell yeah. Thanks, dude.
Yeah, that was fun, man.
Yeah, I know we went a little long, but it was good.